close-up thingy.
I Yeah, okay. We are live.
How cool is that? This is normally the backstage secret place where Val and I chat. So we wanted to go live sooner than later, and we'll be, as people see, just producing the show as we go, right,
Yes.
Val? The beautiful thing about live radio, the beautiful thing is you don't know what they're going to say. You don't know what they're going to do. That's why people tune in. So back to you on that, Val. I'm so happy to see you. Again, we're not going to go
Yes.
live till about 7 minutes my time. So you just take it from here, chit chat, what have you.
Okay, well, I am behind the scenes. We are in my kitchen this morning and I'm just going through alerts. I don't get tagged by President Trump with updates very often. So when I get an update, I stop what I'm doing and I'm like, okay, what's going on? It's more like geopolitical this morning. It sounds like military preparedness is what's on the discussion board today. But that's not local, that's geopolitical. But it sounds like our troops are getting prepared. So that's always a good thing. Organization, being prepared. He talks about the tremendous military progress made. So that's good. Anyways, I'll just set that down because we're not going geopolitical today. Where are we going? Back to you.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Well done. As we say down in the United States, the name is Bondi. Pam Bondi. Okay, that's a good little one. I saw a meme on that. It was really good. Really kind of going, as I chatted with you in the pre-show, just really going relaxed, back to our roots. This is episode 001. It's for me, it's a new start, a fresh start. Call it a rebirth, if you will. Call it a rebirth. One of Secrets from the Inside. It actually, oh, look at that nice little thumbnail in the right colors. I love it. Secrets from the Inside. Actually, we left off where we left off, Val, was episode 31.
Wow.
Okay? So that's in the can now, those 31 shows. Now we're going to 001, which is new and improved. I learned from a real high-end marketing guy like 50 years ago. Make sure you have something new to bring to the table if you're a marketing guy. This is a guy who did the marketing campaigns for Gillette Razors of Canada. Anyhow, so here we go. I'm digressing already, but it's my show, right, Val? So Secrets in the Inside, 001 means brand new show for me. And in case people didn't know, I kind of retired again. I've tried to retire like 7 times in the last 5 years. Retired again and retired, good luck with this, from politics, from political discourse. And it just got really tiring to me and whatever. And great big things are happening every single day, all that stuff. But on March 17th, it was kind of an epiphany. I decided to pivot my brand away from politics. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Away from politics to fatherhood. This has been my lifelong mission was fatherhood, mentorship, and hockey. People think I've been talking politics. And I've been only talking politics since 2015. I've been doing the father thing since I was a baby. But we know that because you read that story. That story actually kind of pivoted me, Val. And you always say we got about four minutes till our hard start. But, I always say go back to your roots, go back to your previous work and all that stuff. And I realized that I was onto this fatherhood thing since the 1960s. That's a long time ago. So it's kind of back to where it's at, as they say. We've got some guests coming on today. We've got about 3-4 minutes till our hard start. Some guests coming on today. You know who they are, Val. And we're basically, today's theme is going to be fatherhood, just to pivot this thing. I love it. Pivot this thing, this brand. And we have lots of stuff. We're packed today, whether you know or not, Dear Val Olsen, we're packed. So we have 2 or 3 guests coming in. They're going to be parachuting in. And the theme of the day is fatherhood. My one requirement, usually it's telling a secret, right, Val? Your train ticket admission to Secrets from the Inside, you got to tell a secret. I'm sure we'll get to more of that a little bit later on too. But today today, and my guests know this today, is you got to tell a story about your dad, your father. That's the only requirement today. So, kind of back to you as we wind it up to exactly 9 o'clock Pacific, noon Eastern. Those times, 9 a.m. and noon, I plagiarized those from Rush Limbaugh.
Huh.
I tell people what I'm going to do, say what I'm going to say, whatever. And I like my hard starts for my radio to be at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. That's what Rush Limbaugh did. And everyone could take it to the bank. It was before, imagine this, Val, before live streaming, social media, sharing. If there's one, honestly, anyone who knows me, I've researched just Rush Limbaugh like a number of people for a long, long time. If there was one wish I had in life, is that Rush could see 2025. This is his dream. This is his dream. If there's, when you regret kind of the past treasures that may be lost forever, that's one thing I wish Rush could see today. I wish he could see Doge. I wish he could see the Doge tracker. Anywho, there's my prayer of the day. Rush, if you're watching, Doge is rocking, Elon's rocking, Trump's rocking. No worries. Back to you. Got about a minute left. You just take the show over from here, Val.
Okay. Well, yes, we have about a minute to go. So Rush Limbaugh, I learned, he was like, he knew his way around the computer, right? He was back in, what was it, CompuStart days a little bit?
CompuServe. Before computers were computers.
Yeah. Yeah.
CompuServe. Yep.
Yeah. So that was
platform.
Cool.
That was the only kind of search platform and online platform there was at the time.
And how did that work exactly? Like,
I don't know. I'm not a computer guy, Val. What do you mean, how did that work? You think I am Al Gore or something? I didn't invent the internet. Come on, Val.
No, if you put them like side by side, I mean, you went there, so I'll just hand it back to you. Why don't you break it down, like visually? If you put, like Doge, CompuServe, any comparables?
Let's do that after we start the show, okay? And one thing I'll say too is try to behave yourself today, Val, for a change. Okay.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday. Do I not get off the leash on my birthday? Come on.
Start the show there, kiddo. Start it.
First, there was Dueling Citizens. Now, Secrets from the Inside. Author Greg Meekin nails it again. Introducing Secrets from the Inside Radio Show. Raw, unscripted, uncensored, uncanceled. Secrets from the Inside starts now.
You got me headed to the left, headed to the right, headed back and forth, but baby, it's alright. You got me going to the east, going to the west, going up and down, 'cause baby, you know best. All day, all night, running around, I'm never gonna stop because you never settle down. Got me shooting into space, flying at the sun. I'm never coming back, 'cause baby, you're the one.
Welcome to Secrets from the Inside, episode 001. Greg Meekin is your host, and I'm just putting pictures on the screen today. I'm a helper. I'm on standby. I'm ready. I'm ready to go here, Greg.
Are you sure?
Yes.
As soon as people think they are ready for something, then someone's throwing a wrench in their plan. Remember Mike Tyson? He says, yeah, you always make plans till you get punched in the face. So as you know, I always do kind of curveballs and all that fun stuff. And I just want to let you know that this show isn't about fatherhood. That was a ruse. Show's about Val Olsen. It's your friggin' birthday today, April 1st. Happy birthday, Val. Everybody in the world. It's your birthday. The show's about you. The show's about everybody who's coming on to wish you a happy birthday. Just want to let you know.
Oh, thank you. Yes, 44 today. It's a big year.
You're 44? I thought you were 45. I thought you were moving.
No. No,
Wow, wow,
I'm
wow.
not 45. I'm not 47. I'm not 46. I'm 44.
Here you go, right? Here you go. Just a quick kind of prelim to the show. Prelim to the show. We're already out of control. Oh yeah. By the way, Val, I was going to ask you, and I know you've inserted politics really beautifully in here. Well done. Well done. As we go along in this show, if that kind of happens to come up, I need you to promise me that you don't say the word communist. Okay, you don't call Canadians communist for at least maybe 30 minutes.
All right. I'm zipping my lips. I don't have to. I can play by the rules. I've learned how to play by the rules. I don't have to say commies or communists. I don't have to do that ever.
Oh, oh.
Where should we go today?
Oh my
You-
God, whether anyone understands media or radio, okay? This is like a parental warning. Val Wilson's trying to hijack my show. But anyhow,
I
okay,
learned from the best.
dude, uh, I am I'm trying to jump into Facebook, back and forth into Facebook and stuff. Do you hear like a double recording or anything?
No. What you're hearing is my puppy in the background. So I'm gonna turn my mic off for
Oh.
2 seconds.
No,
And I'm going to give you the screen, and I'm just going to do a quick little housekeeping. So you talk for 1 minute. I'll be back. Okay.
oh my goodness. Take your time, Val. Take your time.
Thank you.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Once again, I've lost control of my show. We've digressed, all this fun stuff. Really, we're going back to the beginning here. We this idea of Secrets from the Inside, and Val Olson hosting, facilitating it. She's everybody's little helper. We've been doing radio for like 3 years now, and this literally is what we've been doing for 3 years. But episode 001, I'm pivoting to a brand new world, which is fatherhood, mentorship, and hockey. That said, a little bit of, as Val says, a little bit of housekeeping is a good way to start. I have been heavily involved in the past 3 years in the Alberta 51 movement, all that stuff. Good. I said it that early, Val. I said it, AB 51. And a lot of the pivoting and moving on and stuff for me is really out of joy for AB 51, out of joy for Alberta, out of joy for really Canada and the United States. The joy is that the discussion has finally happened. Hello, God, am I going to politics?
Well, President Trump actually has addressed Canada 49 times. And that's not counting yesterday when he was sharing and directly calling out people that we know who are part of statehood. So it does feel a little close to home. I will say that, because we are 3 years ahead of schedule. We're the only ones that have 3 years of radio shows exclusively on Alberta 51 and Canada 51.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool.
It's the old reference. Just refer to my YouTube channel. Just refer. You want anything you need to know about AB 51 or the movement or radio, just refer to my YouTube channel. Not kidding. Let me jump branch on housekeeping there. Let's talk YouTube while I brought it up. Since I brought it up, show's all about me, right, Val? Anyhow, just ask my wife, right? Anywho, update as of this morning. You'll love this. You'll love this YouTube channel. And there's almost 1,700 videos on there. It's been a game for the last couple of years for me. Anyhow, as of today, total impressions. Impressions is what the world's all about in e-marketing right now. Do people see you? Well, excuse me. Do people see you? Do they see your brand? Would they know that they could click and get your brand? It's just an image. It's like nice images like, I don't know, Coca-Cola or Budweiser used to be in the old days. Anywho, impressions as of this morning. 999,444. 999,444 impressions on my YouTube channel since I started. So I'm saying, wouldn't that be cool if we went over 1 million just because of this broadcast? Oh, goodness. Good. I'm digressing so badly. Okay. Have to get back to fatherhood. Okay. Val, remind me. Remember, Greg, fatherhood, mentorship, and hockey. The guests that are on today, and I'm so excited, and I hope they're able to drop in. You never know with the logistics these days and these guys' schedules. The people that are dropping in today is our old friend, Captain James McCormick. No intro needed. See my YouTube channel. 3-time Purple Heart winner and now executive director of government affairs for Vietnam Vets of America, VVA.org. That is Captain McCormick coming up. His of course first requirement he's got to tell a story about his daddy, right? His West Virginia daddy. We've got and this is probably later in the show, but we have my son Tanner coming on, also kind of a big factor in that pivot point for me going back to fatherhood. We're talking about a lot about fatherhood these days. I found out, it's weird. There are like 8 billion people on the planet, and last I looked, every single one of them's got a father. Everyone. So last I looked. So anyhow. Tanner will be coming on. I can't wait to catch up with him because he's got a fatherhood story of his own. He just gave up everything in order to be closer to his boys up in Bremerton, Washington. You know the story there. And last but not least, this was kind of a final. I'm actually texting it really early this morning, Val, like about 5 a.m. my time or something, however that goes. It's Pastor Nathaniel Rios. I really hope he's able to drop in. It's always touch and go. Whether people can or not. A shout out here real quick too. A quick shout out to Grizz Paschke, Grizz, the Grizzmeister, the SRF Stark Raving fan. If you can, Val, because I'm running blind as usual. 3 blind mice. That's what we used to call referees, 3 blind mice. Can you really peek at comments, whatever, from whatever platforms we're going to get out to today? And because I am really running in the dark, just like my life, just running in the dark, So all 3 of these guys coming on, then they specifically came on for one major reason, and main reason was to wish Val Olsen a happy birthday. I tried to make it a surprise party, but you spoke first. You bought the insurance first. You bought the product first. You told everyone it was your birthday, right? Yeah. Everybody in North America knows your birthday's been coming up for the last 10 days. So today is to, number 1, wish Val Olsen happy birthday. Happy birthday, Val. I would sing, but I can't do that. I can't do singing, okay, and I don't do. I stay in my lane. And also to really just rekumbaya campfire chat with these 3 guys coming up. And also, as usual, not to digress, but this is important. I did get a birthday wish. It's always early morning with the Lambs, Sheriff Mark Lamb and his wife, Janelle. This is real.
That's so kind.
Yeah, and they said, number 1, happy birthday, Val. Happy birthday, Val Olsen.
Thank you.
And they also, they're traveling. They're flying right now from Utah back down to Phoenix. I said, you're going to love the temperature down here. You're going to love the temperature down in the 80s down here today. So they said, honestly, if they can get off their plane in time and stuff, they might try and pop into the show. And I always recommend that Janelle, if preferable, Janelle drops in. 2 main reasons. Number 1, she's smarter than her husband. Okay. And she's better looking. Okay. and she also has hair, unlike me. So there's a special giggle, but seriously, seriously, Val, they wish you the very, very best. They've known for about a week that your birthday's coming up. And it ain't no April Fools for this one. This is Val Olsen, right? Val Olsen New news gets its news. Keeping it light here and stuff, waiting for folks to drop in. I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Val, provided that you behave and you don't try and hijack my show. You stay on theme, right? Okay. Fatherhood.
Yes, Emma, I will. Okay.
Go ahead, seriously. Just have a chat with everybody, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to chit chat with the folks coming in.
Okay, well, I'm thrilled. It's episode 001 of Secrets from the Inside. We are just like the government around here when they like reuse numbers and reintroduce bills and all that. So people like forget what the first episode of Secrets from the Inside was. But you're getting a taste of it today. It sounds like it's going to be a jam-packed show. I am just pushing buttons back here. So don't hold me responsible or accountable if you are the RCMP, if you are the CIA, if you are, oh, no, they're out of business, right? I can't keep track. There's just so much happening. There's so much going on. I don't know who's open for business and who's closed.
Dude, the
But around here,
Hudson's Bay Company went out of business. And I'm saying,
oh,
what? What?
I know.
Yes, next will be the CIA or maybe RCMP.
No, they already had to close their doors like a few weeks ago. I don't know what happened. Like where do you go? There's just going to be a surplus. So I imagine we're going to have a few more listeners than usual to the show just because people have time on their hands, which is great. Everyone is welcome. We are all friends here. And my doorbell is ringing, Greg. So we do have some live guests that are going to pop in here. So would you like me to let them in or do you want to talk first? What should we do?
Big question. Who are you talking about here?
One, the only, Tanner Thorpe. I can see through my little, my little
into the studio. Let's keep
Bring
everybody back. Bring them in. Let's keep everybody backstage.
Okay.
And how exciting. Well, there's the first surprise of the day. I was thinking it's going to be a little later. But this will be fun. Yeah, have them pop in, and if Captain James parachutes in, pop them in. Just pop everybody in, and we'll go from there. Might even call on them early. You never know. It's whatever I decide. I'm producing the show,
right?
So it's just not okay.
Not a democracy. It's a dictatorship around here. Yes.
And who's the dictator?
That would be you, unless I hijack your show. But
exactly.
If I'm in charge, it's popsicles for everybody. Okay, not just the dictator, for everybody.
Isn't that great? I'm seriously, you're getting me laughing real early. Seriously, there is so much going on. I don't know about anyone out there, but is it a crazy world out there? Crazy, brand new headlines every day. But I say good crazy. Good crazy. Meaning I think the world, of course, has been shaken on its on its axis. But I keep saying, I think we're going to come out fine. Maybe I'm the only guy that says that, but no, tell you what, one of these, to digress again, remember, keep track of my thoughts here, Val, because I have pre-dementia, so I can remember 65 years ago, but I can't remember how I started a sentence. So
no excuses around here. I'm not accepting that.
What people don't realize is tightening your belt is really good. Scaling back expenses in your household is really good, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable. With giving up subscriptions, I won't go any punchlines there about porn lines or anything, whatever. But you just scale back your household, and it's great. And it's great for a company. And I witnessed it when Ronald Reagan took over after Jimmy Carter. Mm-hmm. It was interesting because whatever you thought of kind of the Biden years, this last 4 years, they were just awful under Carter. They just really were in the 70s, and gas lines and all that stuff, terrible prices, way high. But during the Carter years, it was kind of like a recession. So everybody scaled back, and everyone got tight as a drum, if you will. And as it turns out, when Reagan re-sparked patriotism and goodness gracious, things like tax cuts and pro-business, pro-moon again, all that stuff. But the companies were ready for growth because they had their belts tightened. The reason why there was such, again, fact check me on this, everybody. The reason why there was just that wonderful growth after Reagan is because everybody was squared away. They tightened their belts. They were ready for growth. Just because you tighten your belt, it doesn't mean you're not ready for growth, explosive growth.
Well, and it's keeping your house clean. I was listening to a podcast with Dave uh, Bjorkman,
Right.
and he was talking about the difference of coming from Alberta to Washington. And he said the way, President Trump had described Washington, he was expecting to arrive into a dump. And he said if that's the standard that the president has of a clean house visually, we have some catch up to do. And some people might be offended by that because it is kind of a uh, nobody wants to be called out on things, but I can honestly tell you that when you are going through really difficult times and you look around and there's just like a dump pile and nothing's taken care of, nothing's dishes stacked up everywhere, and it's a reflection, right? Like it's a reflection of like what's going on in your life. And so I think it's super important for people that it's just a great place to start. I always say everything comes back to the home zone of what's going on inside our homes. That's why the Chinese Communist Party wants to spy inside your homes, because if they can look at what's going on and insert things, whether it's technology or whatever, if they can have you, frazzled and unhappy, and I'm not just limiting it there to a communist party, but I'm saying going on inside of our house, we can't fake it. So nothing's going to work well outside of our homes if we are just living in complete and utter chaos. It's a reflection of how out of control we are feeling inside. And so I really liked how Dave started with this example of, look, becoming American, get prepared, get ready now, get that house cleaned up. And I live like that. It's not perfect. I am like one of the best poster child examples of starting from just complete chaos to getting to a point of I feel better when everything is just organized. And that starts with the condition of my marriage, my children, my home. Like I can't go out and talk the talk if I'm not walking the walk. And so I'm trying to help moms in the community, not from oh, look at me, but from I understand, and I can walk alongside and help you. And just by these simple things of like dealing with roots, right? Root issues, then you can fix stuff. And I'm still working. I don't have all the roots pulled out, people.
We work on it every
But
day. We work
I'm
on
here
it
to
every
learn,
day.
right? Wake up in kindergarten,
Sure.
as you say. But I think that this model is a game changer, especially when it comes to government or institution or anywhere. You can apply the same model of just being accountable and doing an inventory. Like if you don't do an inventory,
Right.
how can you say, oh, I don't have blessings? Because whenever I used to feel sorry for myself, like, God, why aren't you answering my prayers? Like, it came down to, well, have you done an inventory? Have you like cleaned out the closet? Have you looked at what's in there? And when you start unpacking everything you have, it's like, wow, I really have a lot of stuff, like stuff. And stuff can be great, but it can also hold you back.
What you're speaking of when I was talking about retooling before the Reagan years, what you're talking about is what a perfect time for Doge. Why can't this apply to our government? Well, because it just hasn't never been done that way. Well, I don't care if it's never been done that way.
Right.
Anyone who's not watching the Doge tracker is not doing their homework. Anyhow, that I jumped right to that, but that really was the overall message, that clean your house, meaning it's totally okay to cut the size of government. It's totally okay. You're allowed to. You're allowed to stop your spending, your drunken sailor spending. You're allowed to find inefficiencies. Goodness gracious, that's really an entire show unto itself, because I simply can't believe what's coming out of Doge. And if anyone is anti-Doge or anti-Elon or even anti-Trump right now, they're not doing their homework. They're just not doing their homework. If you see what's actually happening, and all it is just tightening your belt. Why can't we do it as a country? Catch me up to date. A little bit of housekeeping here, Val. We have Tanner in the studio. Has anyone else arrived? Because I'm blind here. I only see you.
Not yet. Tanner is backstage.
Okay.
Yes, I hope he's grabs a coffee and just relaxes. And I, I try and have a comfortable green room. So yeah, so Tanner is here and other invitations are sent
Nice.
out. And
Nice.
we are streaming, so I will check for comments.
Nice. Please do. As I say, I know Grizz. Grizz is in the house, and he's always in the house. He's so fantastic. Really follows all of our work, and he follows Mike Russell and Other News, which is our noon Phoenix show. Just a legendary show right now. So thanks to you on that, Grizz. Also, I want to do a quick shout out here, kind of before we start. I've got a million of them, but we're going to have to do probably additional shows down the road. Val, imagine that. But really, one special shout out to a gentleman named Brian Godley. Anyone up in Alberta, if you want to know how to go about your business for AB 51, just do what Brian does. Oh my goodness. Val, thank you. Brian Godley, here's the guy in front of you. This is awesome. Oh, thank you for being able to give me that branch here. Brian Godley right there. And this is his mom, Elizabeth. Brian Godley, there's actually a story there because he purchased the last book, Why I Came to America and What I Think Now, that I shipped to Canada. He purchased the very last one. And so we began conversing and stuff. He's an AB 51 guy and stuff. But out of the blue, he not only received the book, but he went to Amazon and he wrote the nicest book review I've ever seen, like right out of the blue. But so I reach out to Brian there, and most importantly, his mom. His mom passed away. His mom passed away late last week, I believe, Elizabeth. And coming back to the roots of this show, this is what it's all about. Elizabeth Godley. I'm going off of memory here. April 10th, 1933, till March 29th, 2025. This is by the grace of God. This lady came into the world, and especially because she gave birth to Brian, right? We could literally, I'm not kidding you, just how Brian got his book. We can do a whole thing on that because he ordered this thing after I had stopped shipping to Canada. And it was like a real close call. They're only shipped to the U.S. right now for reasons. But again, thank you, Brian. We're gonna talk soon about this, about your mom. But he bought the last book, and it was weird. I think you even heard this, Val. And I got the book order. Actually, it's right. Look at this, Val. You won't believe this. Okay, you won't believe that. That's from. I love this. That's from actually. You can't see. I'm terrible on the Brian Godley. I won't divulge any personal information. He's in Alberta. Anyhow. So,
we don't sell membership lists around here.
Oh, yeah.
I guard that. I have the keys.
Oh,
I'm actually the one who holds the keys, and we don't fool around with that.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So back to Brian Godley. He's so awesome. I love his name, by the way, including his last name. It's awesome. But as you know, Val, I don't do the clearinghouse stuff. I don't do anything that's conveyor belt industrialized. I like one-on-one contact, including with my readers and stuff. So it's so surprising. They can't believe when I call them or email them after they order their book, right? And so I said, hey, here we go. I'm going to send this book up to Alberta, confirming your address. And I sent it up there. And I went to the post office. Kid you not. And I had my book in my hand, went to the post office. And when I first retired down in Arizona, I could mail a book for $6, to Canada, $7. So here we go. I'm strolling down to my local post office, and it's $26 to mail a book to Canada. And I said, can you repeat that, please? $26. And that's US. Anyhow, fun. It was an experience. But it just turns out that's the way it is. I've had again, kind of digressing. I've had not good experience with Canada Post. I've had a couple of books returned, and one of them disappeared. It was returned saying, we had a problem at the Ontario border, probably going to Toronto or something. And they returned the packet, but there's no book in it. So I finally said, okay, fait accompli. So I mailed the book to Brian anyhow, and he gets it quicker than I thought. When you pay $26, they actually mail it up there to his place. And I as usual, followed up like a good salesperson and CEO I am, and said, hey, did you receive your book? He said, I received it and I read it. word for word, and I'm going up on Amazon with a review. And when he saw how much I paid for the postage, it was almost a quid pro quo with the Amazon review. But I shout out to Brian. I shout out to his mom, because this is the guy. This is what Alberta is. Okay, these are the peeps. These are the people right now up there. And so I see it. Thanks to you. God bless you, Brian. God bless. God bless. And God rest your soul, Elizabeth. And back to you on that a little bit. I kind of digressed, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. Godliest of the world, and there are others up there. Okay, others. We're talking Terry and Red Deer. Okay, we're talking some nice peeps.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah, well, all I have to add to that
Sure.
is it's like the taps are being turned off, and this has been going on for quite some time. Most people don't know how hard it is to get Bibles into Canada,
Oh yeah.
right? And this has kind of been a secret, but there's been a lot of interference going on at border crossing. I've been tracking this a little bit. And so when we try and get speakers or missionaries or just plain old Bibles in there, it's like a real fight. So meanwhile, we're getting rid of freedom of speech, we're getting rid of Bibles, we're getting rid of our guns. That leaves us in a real place of complete dependency on on the circus to provide for us entertainment, show, food, everything. So it's a real dangerous time. So I'm glad your book you were able to get it there. But I think a real heyday for Doge, if Doge was to address why does it cost that amount of money. I have a birthday card that was sent here that was airmailed here, and I don't even want to think of what the postage was on that. Brutal. So people are desperate need of hope there. So I'm glad that your book is there. Amazon review, if you want to check Greg's book out, you can go read reviews. I put one up there as well. The book is great. You can download it. So if you are following from Alberta and you need a dose of hope,
Nice.
book digitally. It's instant, way faster than Canada Post. It'll land in your inbox. Great price, $5. So get your hands on that, gregmeekin.com.
I think that's $5 US though, Val. So I think that's something like $300 Canadian. It's something like that, way up there. And
Yeah.
I did seriously wanted to keep it at $5 so everybody could get could little at least have it. Not even a plug here, but I just wanted to share. When I say it's important to look back on your past work. Look back on your past work. And the book, True published it in 2021. That's a while back. But I'm looking through it, and I might, I don't know if I'm going to sue Donald Trump or Elon Musk for plagiarism. I'm not sure. I went through it. It's fun. That's clickbait right there. But I went through it, and I'm telling you, I'm serious. I went through all the issues: immigration, healthcare reform, border security, military, blah blah, taxes, healthcare, and I'm saying it's like a Doge checklist, and I'm serious. Go through them sometime. I might do a little contest. How many times does Greg do Greg's List that predicts this? How many times does he trash the Toronto Maple Leafs in his book? Those kind of things. Maybe do a contest. But yeah, the ebook it's $5 on Amazon, as they say. I was actually impressed with Amazon. I'm not an Amazon guy. Quote, it's really tough to sell on Amazon right now. Tougher than crossing the southern border. I assure you that. But the reviews of the book were done by AI, and it's kind of cool. I looked at them and say, "Hey, that's kind of cool." Anyhow, I want to jump real quick. I mean, real quick. I'm gonna be all over the place here today, but if Tanner is there, right? Tanner's in the studio.
Tanner's in the studio, and we just had Captain James is at the door. He's knocking on my door. So did you want me to bring Tanner in first?
Well, we will go. The number one rule of life is go military first. Make sure your military is taken care of first. We'll take care of James, because you never know. He might pop in for 3 minutes. Val, get this. We have done with James McCormick. We did over 2 hours. long form with him. And I mean, 2 hours. So let's bring James in first. Kick back, Tanner. I can't wait to chat with you. But James, obviously, number one, he has to say happy to Miss Val. Also, if you have time, James, tell folks what Miss Val means to you. Seriously, it's her birthday. This is what the show's all about. And secondly, and this is an order. This is an order, sir. You got to tell a story about your father. So back to you.
Me,
Actually, you can.
I'll do it.
Oh, there he is. God, we'll let anybody onto this radio
Yeah,
show.
dogs. Yeah, dogs like me. So let me just say this. Yeah, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Val. Happy birthday to you. We love you. We love you. We love you. That's what you mean to me.
Thank you. Thank you. That made my day. Thank you.
That was great. Did you do any of that singing while on your 2 tours over at War or anything? You had that like memorized. Good job, Val.
Well, actually, I did. I used to sing "God Bless America" every time I would fire the 50 caliber machine gun. I'd get scared. It helped me from peeing my pants.
One of these days when we're on shall I say, a more quiet, maybe private program, I'll have you chat some 50 cal stories. Okay.
Yeah.
Story about your daddy. Let's launch it. You talk to us. You know what's going on in this show. And number one was Miss Val, and number two is just what your daddy meant to you in a quick story. There you go, James.
Yeah. So now see, my old man, he was tough, man. He was tougher than woodpecker lips, man. That guy, he was, when you're younger, you don't really appreciate your father because, your father is the one that is disciplining you when you're doing wrong. Your father's the one that's trying to teach you to do right. But there are certain things I remember most about my dad. And my dad would say to me when he started teaching me how to hunt, I was an excited kid, man. I had ADHD before it was even known to be ADHD, okay? So I was always bouncing around, talking and stuff. And then he'd tell me when we get out in the woods, he'd tap me on the back. He said, "Steady, son, steady." And there was a comfort that would come over me, especially whenever I got ready to, shoot your first deer or, your tracking game or bear. We hunted bear, we hunted deer, coyotes. We used to shoot a bunch of those, and these can be very dangerous animals, kind of like, not different than some of the stuff that y'all hunt up in the far north. But I would get nervous, and I can remember my dad, he'd tell, you get shaky, first time you're trying to aim this great big rifle. And I hunted with an 8mm Mauser that one of my uncles brought back from World War II. It was a German Mauser. The damn thing was so heavy, it was hard to hold up. 8mm round to just kick you like a mule. So I'm bracing for that kick from that rifle. And on top of, trying to stay on target, you didn't have a scope, you used iron sights. And you usually were shooting somewhere between 75 and 100 meters out. And, in West Virginia, that's a long shot, because everything's wooded. But I can remember, and I could, my dad saying that, "Steady, son, steady." And he'd whisper it in my ear, and I could hear it in my ear. And when my dad died in 2000, I was young. I was 32. And then, but I used to think about that when he would tell me that, as a kid. And when I was over in Iraq, I, was put a post about my dad, and I'd lay awake at night and I'd look up at those stars and I'd always imagine, my dad's probably looking down on me right now. So I gotta do this. And when I would get in some of the most hellish times of my life, I could hear my dad's voice saying, "Steady, son, steady." And it is to this day at 57, it still is something that I hear my dad say, whispering in my ear, when I start to get upset or you start to, take things too serious. So, while my dad is not here physically with me, he definitely is here spiritually with me. And for those of you that are lucky enough to have your dad still, if you haven't called your dad to tell him that you love him, or, you know, you think that you had some kind of an argument that means nothing. Maybe you haven't talked to your dad. You haven't talked to your sons or your daughters. You know, I would highly suggest that you do that before you're talking at a funeral about what you wish you would have done, or what you wish you would have said. Um, you know, I took my dad for granted on a lot of things, and and thought he was just a crazy old man, trying to, you know, uh, stop my vibe. You know what I mean? He was, but he was always giving me his best advice. And the best advice I got from him was to be steady, son, which means take it easy and focus on what you're doing and don't get excited. So that's what I will say about my dad. He was
James, when you were over fighting wars,
Mhm.
was there a moment or a time where your dad just really made a difference, whether it is hanging in there or maybe a message or whatever while you were at war?
Yeah, when I got shot in the chest, yeah, it was a pretty troublesome time. I took a direct shot to my ballistic vest in a ceramic plate, and violently, I think that's what the historian said, violently thrown to the floor. I guess that's a good term, violently. But I had also been shot in the hand, and 2 weeks before that, I was shot in the leg. So, and I was, I don't know if you've ever been shot or hit real hard with something, in your calf area, but you get a Charlie horse about every couple of hours until that thing heals up. You wake up with those Charlie horses at night. You wake up with that Charlie horse at night, and just imagine that pain not going away for a very, very, very long time. These were things that were constantly there. But when I got shot and I fell down into the bottom of the Humvee, I could hear my dad's voice. Literally, I had resigned to my fate. And I remember saying, if this is what dying's like, I'm okay with it. I'm really okay with it. And then, I could hear the old man saying, get up, get up. And I would start to stagger and, pulled myself up. But I could feel his presence. I could hear that whisper, steady, son, steady. And it allowed me to focus on what I was doing. I mean, and as I came up, there were two guys that was trying to throw hand grenades into the vehicle. And they threw one that went over the vehicle, and I dropped my rifle in the bottom and I couldn't grab it. So I grabbed the first thing I could, which was a Red Star Cluster pop flare, which hell, I even forgot what that was until I saw it. Somebody had wrote about it. And I grabbed it and I took that flare and you hit it. And I shot it at these guys, but it went into a methodical movement. But yeah, the old man was always and has always and remains with me to this day. And now I've got many more. I've got friends, that were killed and died since. And it's like, I met this woman one time, years after the war, not too long ago. And she's one of these, spiritual ladies. And when she seen me, she was like, she held her hands up. And she said, you have a lot of spirits that are around you. I mean, I don't know if you believe in that or not, and that's fine if you do or you don't. But I have gotten out of some pretty bad situations that I probably should have never got out of. But more importantly, I've been able to remain steady and calm and not go to jail, because really, honestly, there have been things that have been done since I've been back. If we would have been living in the Wild West days, we'd have just gunned you down, like Jesse James or something, but it's allowed me to not only maintain a level of steadiness, but to also have a level of empathy for even the people that hate you. So I think that that goes into that whole term of steady, son, steady, and that's the best advice. And my kids hear that from me as well. Um, and I tell them that story. That's what your grandpa used to tell me: steady, son, steady.
Mm.
And and hopefully one day they'll tell the story about how I did that. I don't know. I try to communicate with them every day. We send text messages. Technology's allowed a lot of things, but they're all busy with life. So sometimes I wish that I could talk to my kids more, and I do try, and my grandkids especially. I got 12, almost 12 grandkids now. That's a lot of grandkids, man.
Almost everybody I hear that's my age, 60s and stuff, they're real big issues. Their kids now are, spread out across the country. As close as we get with social media, the further away we get. I want to ask you one question though, Captain. By the way, how's your schedule here? Are you working part-time today, or you show up to work today, or what are you doing?
Oh man, let me tell you something. There is no part-time work for the good captain here on Capitol Hill, because we're trying to get some things done. I mean, and it's like, the righteousness of our work is, it's pretty clear. I don't just engage on things that are just nonsensical. And then you've got to deal with all of the radical, bongos, BS stuff you see up here.
I want to, before I forget, before my pre-dementia forgets here, though, you were talking earlier about your dad and wartime and stuff, and it is moving stuff here. I had a quick question, and unfortunately, we won't have a whole bunch of time, because in the past, this is worth a 20-minute, 30-minute segment, but you had told me, and I remember this forever. Oh, there you go. Oh, look at that. The Shameless Plug. That's the only one. That's the only copy of that book that's left. There's none out there. Oh, look at you. I'll have to pay you a few bucks over for that little plug there, Captain. But you said something to me.
Yeah.
During literally, it's been hundreds of hours we've chatted a lot about war.
Yeah.
And you told me that after that huge experience that you had over there, and I won't get into it, but it's where Iraqi soldiers surrendered to a UFO. Okay.
Damn right.
Okay.
They did, yeah.
But you said, again, if you haven't heard that story, there's at least 2 different clips on YouTube with it. Iraqi surrender to you. Anyhow. So, but you said something to me. What happened to you after that? Because you watched jihadists just surrender, right? But what happened to you is you felt, and again, tell it in your own words, you felt almost like the armor of God around you and your platoon after that. Tell us a little bit about that, and how long was that, a period of time from then to when the war ended?
So for me, that happened, right during that April uprising time period. And, a lot of people don't know this, but I think I've told you this. I've had bullets pass through the crease of my pants. I had a bullet come through the shirt here once. I had a bullet ricochet off my helmet. This is all after this has happened. And, people say, come on, man. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't care if you believe me or not. Our vehicle was shot 23 times, and bullets crisscrossed on the inside of that vehicle at various times. And literally, I have a guy that was holding his rifle, and a bullet went through the shoulder strap, on his rifle. Never touched him. So what I felt is I felt a protective presence. I felt a calm that I had not felt before. Now, it doesn't mean that you weren't scared. Anybody says they weren't scared is a liar or they're crazy. And I think that I was a little bit of crazy. Okay. There's no doubt. You can see that picture that's up there. That was taken probably 2 weeks after I came home. Definitely the 1,000-yard stairs there. I look at it and I realize that, I was in a bad spot. And, but I was handsome though. I mean, you got to admit that's a handsome picture right there. I'm a handsome dude, but
I'm kind of getting almost man crush going here, James. Let's get that photo off the screen.
yeah, well, and and obviously, that has changed some, but the eyes are a window to the soul, and I think that whole experience with that, I can't explain it, but the soldiers that were with me, and especially those that went through the whole incident over the Easter uprising weekend, that was a spiritual event for us, to be ambushed on the 7th of April, going in to be, wounded, shot in the chest, shot in the hand, all these things. To have everybody on your crew get wounded, everybody. One guy didn't get the Purple Heart because he got a cut, but it was a significant cut that went. So everybody had been bled there for something. And then he grabbed the barrel of a rifle and it burned his hand because it was red hot. And I think that that experience was something that has helped me throughout life. So if you can go through that, you can go through anything. But let's just not apply this just to warfare. Let's apply this to life in general. So there were a lot of things that occurred with me before that time. I can tell you this, that up to that point, I was, um, I would just as soon just kill you as to look at you. Okay. And I hate to even say that. And that's not a bravado thing. That's just the real, it was business. And that's all. And I used to see it as that. Now I don't see it as just business anymore. I've learned to love my enemies. I've learned to pray for my enemies. I've learned to forgive my enemies. And I've learned to pray for their families. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of them that, that are gold star families in their own way. And we made them that way, so there's nothing good about that. War is the ultimate offense to humanity. And for those of us that participate in it, we have a responsibility to tell people the truth, not just tell war stories, but to tell the truth. And the truth of the matter was, it was a hell of an experience. But God's almighty hand, brought us through that hell. And if you can't see that, then I don't know how else to explain it. But I do give credit, to faith. It's just like the thing with the UFO, thing. A lot of people say, well, little green men, all this other stuff.
Hello, hello.
Okay, we are still live. I think we just lost James for a
Yep.
minute.
Sure.
So
Keep
I will-
keep him there. I'm sure he'll just pop back up. Could you
Yeah.
bring Tanner in?
yes, I can.
'Cause
I think
no
James
ma-
is just getting a phone call. That's kind of what happens when his phone rings.
Yep.
Good
'cause
morning, Tanner. Welcome to the show.
Well,
no
thank you
matter-
so much. Good morning, and very, very happy birthday to you, Val. You're what? I think 30.
Oh, you're too kind. 44.
Yeah.
Yep. 44.
Tanner, no, what I'm so thrilled to have you on. We might be putting you back in the studio, depending on James here.
Well, how dare you?
How
How dare you? The nerve.
Because if James is back on the screen, I wanted to introduce you to, because you've
Yeah,
kind of been ships passing in the night. Go ahead.
I mean, how freaking inspiring is that guy? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, first time seeing Captain James. He actually, I don't know if he can hear me at all. I know, like Val said, he may be on a phone call, but he actually called and wished me a happy birthday on my birthday, as did you, Val. Thank you very much. A month ago, and just what a wonderful individual. Wow, powerful stuff there. I mean, you guys all know how important faith is to me, and to hear it from that perspective is it's humbling.
It really is, and the hundreds of hours I've chatted with him and how much there's just so many stories. And I just tell him, Tanner, I just tell him, I ain't shit compared to you guys. You guys that went over there. I think he spent like 18 months in the hospital when he came back. I said, we're nothing compared to you guys. Nothing. All those guys. So that said, again, you two have been kind of ships passing in the night. I really, if he's up here,
There
I
he
just
is.
want to, are you president and accounted for? Ooh. Hey, James.
I hope you guys can see me. I mean, it's like I'm getting all of this. Can you see me full, or is it like half a screen?
No,
Well,
you
I can
are
see you.
on. Perfect.
You're
Okay,
on.
good. Goodness gracious. I mean, I could hear you all, but I couldn't say anything.
Oh, thank God. Thank
Yeah,
God.
thank
Wouldn't that
God
be
for
a
that.
change? That's like a mute button. Because before, we never know what your schedule is, James. You're in DC. You're in the bowels of DC.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get Tanner in here because you two have been kind
Tanner, how's it going, buddy?
of
Captain McCormick, I'm blessed. How are you, my friend?
Good. Hey, God bless you, man. I mean, I see you're doing righteous things. See, you're following your faith. That's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the
And,
most important thing we can do, right?
that is the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You do that, and then I'm telling you, and it's not easy, Tanner. I know it's not easy. We could all go someplace else and make a lot of money, can't we?
Yeah. I walked away from a lot of money to follow my faith.
Yeah, there you go.
To follow what I'm doing. So yeah. It's not easy, but it is the most fulfilling work that you could possibly do.
So Tanner, what did Jesus say? Pick up your cross and follow me, right?
That's right. That's right. It's funny that you say that. The prayer that I've been praying a lot lately is, Lord, lead me through the narrow path.
Yeah.
Because it's the narrow gate. It's the follower that came to Jesus and said, I follow all the commandments. I do everything that I'm supposed to. What else do I need to do? And Jesus said, you know what, go back and sell all of your possessions. You pick up your cross and follow me. And the parable that he was saying there is, the road to hell is wide and easy and it's enticing and it's inviting and but the narrow path and the narrow gate is that's the true journey.
Yeah. You'll run into all of these distractions along your way, as I'm sure you've already seen some of them. There will be people that you always thought was a friend, maybe, and they'll come out against you, and all of these things will happen.
Yep.
But to be, as we know, to be wounded in the faith is a great honor, and accept
Yeah.
it and move forward. I mean, it's all you can do. God bless you for doing this mission. This is a mission.
Well, and you spoke about it just a little bit ago. The most important thing, and I tell my kids all the time that forgiveness is a superpower, right? There's a lot of people that rail against the church because they were hurt in church. Well, it wasn't God that hurt you; it was people that hurt you, and people are fallible. I'm fallible. I'm as it says in the Bible in the book of Timothy. I'm the worst sinner I know. Nobody knows my sins more intimately than me. So if I have to atone for who I am at the deepest part of my sin, then how can I not forgive those that are seemingly against me or want to speak out or are struggling with their own things? We're all struggling, and the more that we dig in, the more we find our authenticity. And that's my main passion. I believe that authenticity is built through mind, body, and spirit. And the foundational piece of that is your spirit.
Mm-hmm. What's been your largest challenge since you've taken up your cross and got on the path? What's been your biggest challenge? And look, I hate to say this because then, the devil looks at it as a way, so don't share all the intimate details, but what has been the one challenge that has been really hard for you? And then I'll tell you what my challenge has been, but I'd like to hear what that challenge has been for you.
So I'll tell you the most challenging piece. as I've been building this business in authenticity coaching and faith-based authenticity coaching, the hardest part is it's a saturated market, right? The coaching market is a saturated market. So the biggest challenge is obviously finding clients.
Mhm.
How do I find people that want to work with me? But the real challenge behind that is, how do I not retreat? How do I not go back to the life that I had before? I spent 3 decades in the culinary industry, specifically in culinary leadership. I could go back and get a culinary position tomorrow,
Mhm.
but that's not where my calling is anymore. And I just recently watched a movie that was it was recommended by my pastor at church, and it's by the family that that have the Christian music band for King and Country.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, there and kind of the story. I'll give a quick synopsis of the story. The family is a Christian producing family, producing Christian shows in Australia. Australia goes through a massive recession, and the family loses everything, and so they move to Nashville with the promise to work with a Christian artist. Well, when they get to Nashville, that deal falls through. And so the father is, distraught, they're doing, the whole family is working together to do whatever they can. And of course, God is faithful and always provides. So he provides a house for him, he provides a car for him, he provides, families that injected him. And there's one scene where the dad is just, he's so depressed, he can't get out of bed. He hasn't got out of bed for days. And the mom takes the kids out, and she takes them to this playground, and they pretend that they're pirates on the playground.
Yeah.
And there's this pivotal scene where she says, okay, now we need to grab our torches and we got to burn the boats so that no one can get away, essentially. And she says to the kids, we got to burn our boat also, because if we want to make it, we can't go back. We have to move forward here where we're at. And ever since seeing that scene, it's just resonated with me. And then of all things, God speaks to us in the greatest ways, right? So I wrestle with this, retreat struggle every single day, Captain McCormick. Every day I wrestle with it. And this morning I was taking my son to the gym. We go to the gym every morning and work out.
All right.
And yeah, authenticity, mind, body, and spirit, right? You got to take care of all three.
Right. Yeah.
So we're listening to this song on the radio that I'd never heard. And so I pull up my Siri. I said, Siri, what song is this? And I'm listening to the Christian radio station. It's a song called Joy by For King and Country. And the album that it's on is called Burn the Ships. And it was just one of those, God reminding you, Tanner, if you're going to do what I called you to do, you have to have faith that if I brought you to it, I'm going to see you through it.
Amen.
So,
Yeah.
but that's the biggest struggle is retreat.
Well, my biggest struggle was my temper. I had a very violent temper, and it's like asking God for patience. So
Yeah.
I asked God to help me with my temper, and you know how he did that? He sent me every foul-mouthed person that there was on the planet, it seemed like, to try to challenge you, to goad you into a fight. And it was very difficult. You know what I mean? But the more that I ignored, the more that I would not give them the oxygen so the fire could continue burning. And that's a good term is, how do you stop a fire? You remove its oxygen so it cannot continue to burn. And oxygen is when we give room for malice and hatred in our own heart. And you don't even have to say anything, but I've had people, but I will tell you this, that everyone that he sent to me that I did not respond to. And I had some of them that did some ugly things, and not physically. It was always, they would always go to that point because there was, in these prayers, God would tell me they can't touch you. You know what I mean? You have a prayer. Now they're not allowed to touch you. They're not allowed to violently attack you. Then you can defend yourself. You can defend yourself. And so that was always there. So that was always a good feeling. You always knew that, but they would always, and this was what was crazy about this, Tanner, is that they would be, I mean, cuss. I had one of them show up with a rifle one time, at an event with him and his wife, and they were just cussing and going crazy. But they never got within arm's reach of me. Never did they get within arm's reach of me. Never did they touch me, any of my items, anything, nothing. But they just said, it was all said. And of course, you're getting angry and, you're really trying. I'm like, and I would just smile and wouldn't say anything. And then it's like, man, you're a coward. You're a coward. You're not even going to say anything. No, I said nothing to say. Just keep on going. I hope you feel better. And, but then you look around the room and everybody around the room are like, who are these idiots?
Yeah.
When they came in, some of them were their friends and they lost friends. And in the end, there was another one that came to our church and cursed and just carried on something awful. And he was just arrested for child pornography.
Oh, wow.
And he
Well,
was
that guy can be
calling.
buried underneath the prison as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And, and it is, but when he was caught on video, trying to meet a 16-year-old boy, he obviously, it was all of this. And he saw me probably 3 days after that. He says, well, go ahead, make fun of me. I'm like, I'm not going to make fun of you. I said, I'm praying for you.
Yep.
And he started to cry and he walked away, but he was crying, and it was like, so everything that you said, the retreat, because you could go back to that lifestyle. You could go back to being a chef and make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's something that you can even do with those skills in the capacity that you're in now. I believe that you could feed a lot of people, Tanner, and do the things, utilize the gifts that God has given you. I'm trying to figure out what my gifts are sometimes. To being able to shoot a 50 caliber machine gun and all this other stuff is great in warfare, but what is the true gift? Can you fix cars? Can you encourage people to not give up? Can you cook for them and serve them? Will you wash the feet of the disciples?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what I have learned is a level of humbleness and humility. And I think that it's a great thing. There's no question that we could go and do whatever we wanted to do, Tanner. But really, what we're doing is we're trying to lead people to Christ. And that's the most important thing we could do or could ever do. There's nothing that I have ever did in the past that will be any more important than being the example for people so that they will want to pick up their cross and follow Christ as well.
That's it. That's the Great Commission, right? That is the calling. We weren't called to be served. We were called to be servants. And God gave us each individual unique talents, right? I know that I'm a strong leader. I was able to lead in very tense and difficult situations, nothing compared to the situations that you led in. But, there's a lot of similarities between the culinary industry and the military. I mean, we even call our teams brigades, and we structure them in similar states like that. We go into, we refer to it as going into battle every night, and you have to trust the people that you're beside. And what I've learned about myself in that is that I want to help others grow. I want to help others find their faith, find their purpose, find their value, because, I spent a lifetime with a misdirected identity, very similar to what you're talking about, shooting a 50 caliber gun. For the longest time, I was Tanner the chef. I
Mhm.
wasn't Tanner the man of God. I wasn't Tanner identifying with who God made me to be. I was identifying by what I did, or, I struggled with alcohol for years. I, identified myself in an addiction rather than an overcomer, so
That's correct.
yeah, it's so powerful to be able to look somebody in the eyes. It's very similar to you did, and say, you know what? We all fall short of the glory of God.
Mhm.
I don't have to judge you. My number one guiding principle in my life is that I can't control the first thought that comes into my head, but I can control the second.
That's a true statement. Yeah.
And many times I don't control it in the second, right? Because I'm hardwired to judge just like everybody else, but if I'm intentional about it, then I will get to that point. Maybe it's the third thought, maybe it's the 10th thought, where I go, this isn't aligned with who I am. This isn't who Tanner is authentically. How can I judge anyone knowing who I am, and what God saved me from, and continues to. I mean, it's like you said about, praying for patience. I mean, what does God do when you pray for patience? Right? He gives you opportunities to be patient, and those opportunities are challenging. Recently, so for many years, I prayed, God, refine me like precious metal in the fire, clean out the dross, but God, put me on the potter's wheel and mold me like clay. Right.
Yeah.
But all of those things require difficulty, right? It's not easy to be thrown into a fire and have all of your impurities, pushed out. It's not easy to be molded like clay, and then get put into a kiln to harden. I mean, all of those things are difficult. And there was a point maybe a month ago where I said, okay, God, you know what? I don't need to be refined anymore at this moment in my life.
Yeah.
I'm okay being, 18 karat gold instead of, 24 karat, or however that measures out. Like I could take a break from the molding piece right now, but the importance is recognizing that, every day I want to be better than I was yesterday, and not better for me, better in who Christ expects me to be, and how that presents to the world and the people around me. Val, I can't hear you.
How about now?
Sorry, that was just me. I was saying, I love what you guys are saying. That's so good. It just tugs at my heartstrings, but I love the part where you said, if he brings you to it, he will bring you through it. And so often it's like, wow, there's heavy stuff going on, but it's amazing. I'm going to bring Greg back in here too.
I have two questions. I have a question for Captain McCormick. I have a question for Tanner. This is off the wall a little bit. By the way, I can listen to both of you guys for an hour. This is big time. A question, and then honestly, I'd just like to hear you guys still converse. Tanner's got a lot to say here, Captain. I'm going to hang you in as long as you can. This is a real cool meeting. I have a quick question. It's a little bit off the wall, but you guys talked a little bit about pedophilia earlier. The elephant in the room in our society. Okay, fine. I'm a true crime buff, which people don't know. I mean, the Bonnie and Clyde era and Silence of the Lambs, profiling, all that stuff. And I follow a guy real closely named John Douglas. John Douglas was really one of the first, at least recognized, criminal profilers. He was the main character in Silence of the Lambs. Anyhow, read him, and what's interesting about Douglas, although he was in law enforcement, he was 2 decades ahead of his time. He was in law enforcement, but he was, I think, a Democrat anti-death penalty guy. It was kind of different. I don't know party wise, but definitely an anti-death penalty guy, with one exception. He published this in the book Mindhunter. He said, "Sorry, everyone, I've been around law enforcement for a while, and the guys that are tweaked with this little problemo, okay, of liking children," he said, "Sorry, if there's a true, and I mean a DNA conviction, not a he said she said, there's a true convicted pedophile and sexual assault weirdo guys. He says the only option is a swift death penalty. It is the only way that you will ever stop these guys from committing this, because it's it's hardwired in these guys. It would be like asking a heterosexual guy to convert to something else. You just can't do it. My question to Cap McCormick and to Tanner: do you agree with that, and or other positions on death penalty? There you go.
You can you want to go for that first, Tanner? I mean, I can. I can give my my thoughts on that, but ultimately, I will say this: that as Christ hung on the cross, he begged God to forgive those that put him up there. You know what I mean? So I do believe that there is a level of compassion, and there is a level for forgiveness, even for killing our Savior, Jesus Christ, because that was demonstrated in that, through his death, burial, and resurrection, we can all be saved from whatever sins that we've committed. Now, as far as killing these people, the old James McCormick would say, yeah, I'll beat you to death with a shovel and then use it to bury you with. You know what I mean? And that was a side of me that I think it still comes down every now and then, but it's not there like it used to be. So, do I think that there's a need for the death penalty? Absolutely. I think biblically there is a justification for it, in following the laws of the land, and praying for those in authority. All these people that are rising up against the president now and all that stuff, they're wrong in a lot of things that they are rising up against him for. So I think that there's a level of wickedness in this land that has allowed that and called that behavior normal. As a matter of fact, there's organizations, or at least one organization, that encourages this kind of behavior. And I don't want to even say that organization's name to give them any oxygen. But I will say that if you have developed an organization that promotes, sexual actions between children and adults, and you're part of that or support that in any way, shape, or form, doesn't matter what I do to you. It's going to be the second death that's going to be much worse than the first. So that's why I told the gentleman that I'm praying for you, because I don't want to see anybody go to hell. But ultimately, they will make that decision to go there. God does not send us to hell. We choose to go because of our actions and not following his will and not accepting the salvation that has been given to us through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I think with that being said, I would be more worried about the second death than the first death. So there's punishment to be paid for that, whatever that punishment is, delve it out. But I think we should work on their souls regardless to help them not go to hell. That's my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was incredibly well said. It's I don't think it's as black and white as do they deserve to die or not. When you mentioned the pedophile earlier, I said I think that people like that should be buried underneath the prison. And really what I mean by that is to what Greg said earlier. When somebody is attracted to minors, when they're attracted to children, you can't change that in them. What we're attracted to, we're attracted to. If you're heterosexual, you're attracted to the opposite sex. If you're homosexual, you're attracted to the same sex. If you're, it's the psychology behind it is very complex. It's very, very complex. I think that anyone who willfully hurts another person is all you can do is pray for them and hope that there's some sort of rehabilitation to the standards of how do you get them to not reoffend. You know, there's been enough case studies that have proven that castration doesn't work on child predators. They actually end up hurting children more because they can't do what their sexual inclination is. Really, all I can say is I can go from my point of view. I mentioned earlier that you know, the very first guiding principle that I ever had in my life was forgiveness is a superpower, and I truly believe that. And where that came from was at the age of 12 years old, I was molested by a priest, and we at the school that we were at, he molested multiple boys, and you know, the boys brought it up to the leaders, and they ended up removing him from the school, and they sent him to a school for girls because this guy liked little boys. And you know, the Catholic Church, their idea was if we move him to a school for girls, he won't reoffend. I struggled with it for years. When I finally ended up suing the Catholic Church over it, you know, my one stipulation was that I'm not looking for monetary compensation. I'm not looking for money. The only thing that I ask is that this guy is never allowed to be around children ever again in his life.
Yeah.
Ever. That's, you know, I don't want him dead. I don't want him hurt. I don't want him. He's obviously hurting enough if he's, you know, broken like that, especially being somebody that purports to be a man of faith. You know,
Sure.
so the only thing that I could reconcile with myself is that I've forgiven him in my heart. You know, again, we're all broken, all fall short of the glory of God. My request is that he's not around children. And by that time he had passed away. So I don't know, you know, what that is, but that would be my thing is, and you know, and there's even more difficulty with it now than with the technological age, the way it is. You know, back then we didn't have the internet. You couldn't just hop online and you know, go onto the dark web and find all of these terrible things, you know. But you know, I it's why I like the work that people like A21 does, or the Tim Tebow Foundation, where they're really trying to fight against human trafficking. One of the craziest statistics that I've heard in the past couple of years is there are more people in slavery right now today than at any other time in the history of humanity.
That's a true statement.
And it's a wild thing to think about, you know. And I get that, you know, there's billions more people now than there was, you know, in history, but to think that there's people that are being trafficked, you know, for all different reasons, and specifically, you know, for the sexual exploitation of minors, those are the people that we should be going after. You know, the ones that are feeding the pedophiles, the ones that are feeding the nefarious dark, you know, the dark triad, as Jordan Peterson would talk about, you know, the dark hearts of man.
Sure.
But you know, I believe that there is cause for the death penalty, but I don't believe that it is always as black and white as we like to look at it as. You know, I mean, I know that if somebody hurt my son,
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed not to kill him. You know, and that's a fatherly, paternal instinct of, you know, I want to protect my children.
Mhm.
You know, if somebody hurt my daughters, you know, I would do whatever I could to make sure that they could never hurt somebody again.
Sure.
But it's so much more nuanced than, you know, do we just kill them?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a, you know, that's a great concept as well. You know, what you're saying is you know, there's room in our hearts for forgiveness. But it's a little bit harder to get there when you do certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it is, you know, for me, you know, and I'm sure for all of you, you know, when people come out and they hurt your profession or hurt your ability to, you know, to support your family, it's you're mainly angry because they've hurt your kids, your family
Yep.
in the process. And And so when you think about that, you know, I don't know how many times that I've killed people in my heart, you know, because you've wished them dead or whatever, but a lot. Okay. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
And not being able, you know, and not acting on that, I think is, you know, has been key. So just because you don't act on it, you know, remember that, you know, when you even look at someone with that thought, that you've already committed an act of murder. So, you know,
Yep.
I mean, in God's eyes, I've committed murder thousands of times, you know what I mean, over the, you know, the periods of your life. But you know, there's a level of forgiveness and you haven't acted upon that. But when you talk about, you know, the pedophilia thing and some of the things, the bizarre things we saw over the last few years is just in this country is extremely bizarre. And I'm not trying to, but yeah, I guess you can call it a political statement. But the political statement here is that um, you can't call yourself a Christian and support unchristian things.
Right.
Now, you can't call yourself a Christian and hate people. You know what I mean? Even your enemies, because Christ called on us to love thine enemies and pray for him that does wicked against you or does evil things against you. You know, how many times do I forgive someone, my neighbor who offends me? 7 times or 7 times, you know, infinity is essentially what Christ was saying is that, you know, there is no limit, because if you put a limit on your heart, then would you want God to put a limit on his heart and his level of
Right.
forgiveness for us?
That's right.
So, you know, and that's really hard to do. It's incredibly hard to do. But we also can't just say, and this is a tool used by the devil, okay? Well, Jesus would forgive me and say, just turn a blind eye. No, Jesus never said turn a blind eye. He still went in and he turned over the tables in the temple and whipped people out of there with a knotted rope, not once, but twice. And I think that there are times when we have to follow God's command. You know, he sent his armies to destroy legions and said,
Mhm.
leave nothing alive, bring nothing back, no sin from into the camp, bring nothing back, leave nothing breathing. And so, you know, that sounds crazy to some people, but he knew how deep the sin was to where it was like, don't even let the chickens live. You know, I mean,
Yep.
and that's fact. So when everybody now is talking about the Israelis waging war, understand that the Israelis have historically known how to wage war in a way that would just absolutely blow your mind in today's age. So what they're doing in Gaza and all of these things, it's really not bad if you're not picking up a rifle shooting at them. You know, there is some
Yeah.
collateral damage. There are people that are being injured and killed in some cases. But this goes into everything else. At what point do you say enough is enough? You've got to stop this craziness and insanity. The pedophilia, maybe a death sentence would be a great preventative tool. Castration, as you said, doesn't work. You still have the ability to use that mind because you can't act on it anymore, as you said. Now I'm going to do something else. They get their thrills out of human suffering,
Mhm.
power over something. They are the ones that would kick a dog in the face that's on a chain. I don't think you can fix people like that either. I
Yep.
honestly don't. I think that they fall in the same lines as pedophiles and everything else. They're violent natured people but more importantly, they would never come up and do that to you or me, Tanner, or anybody else that could defend themselves. They're
Right.
looking for somebody that's defenseless, which makes them a coward on top of being a wicked worm. And I can't find any value in that kind of an individual to be allowed to roam free throughout the streets of America.
Do you
So there
do
you
you
go.
think there's the ability for rehabilitation for somebody like that?
I think that the only thing that could save them is for them to come to Christ and to accept forgiveness and to truly mend their ways. You know, we can look at Saul of Tarsus, who became Paul. You
Yeah.
know, he hunted down Christians and killed them and everything else. You know, he was there and held the coats when they stoned,
Stephen,
Stephen.
yeah.
You know, he was there when that happened. And so I do think, and thankfully, there is forgiveness because we can be forgiven. And there is also discussion about what makes your sin either any worse, what makes your sin worse than my own. So I have sins that I deal with every day, thoughts.
Yep.
You know, I talked about killing people in your mind. You know, drive down the streets of Washington D.C. a couple of times. You know, or New York City or Chicago, all these places. But there is a difference. There is a difference between someone that's cruel and sadistic, but there is no difference when it comes to answering for your sins. We're all going to answer for them. So
Yeah.
it's like, is your time in hell going to be worse than this person's time in hell? Because ultimately, what gets you to hell is being a Christ rejecter. You reject Christ. That's your problem. That's what sends you to hell. And when you truly accept Christ, then you know what? You lose the desire to do the evil and the wicked things. The devil's still going to poke at you because he knows you're in the flesh, as long as
Constantly.
we're in the flesh.
Yeah, constantly.
But you won't act upon it if you truly follow Christ. So that's why it's like the gentleman, the priest that you talked about. And that's a very troubling thing that you went through. It makes it to where it's hard for you to trust people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When a person in that position does something like that. I'm sorry you went through that. And that is definitely not someone that represented the body of Christ. Um, but I bet you've thought about it and you said, you know, I pray that he found salvation before he died. How many times have you said that or thought that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I believe redemption is the path to rehabilitation, right? And it goes back to what we've been talking about. You know, I know what a terrible, miserable person I was for a lot of my life. For internal circumstances, external circumstances, me trying to appease the world, you know, me trying to be of the world. And I know that redemption led me to the rehabilitation that I needed to actually look at myself and say, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. This is not who I want to present to others as. This is not the energy that I want to bring into every situation and room that I'm in. I wouldn't have had that without redemption. I wouldn't have made those steps. And maybe I would have made those steps, but those steps wouldn't have stuck without redemption. You know, and the thing that you know really transformed me with the part with the priest is, you know, years later, even after I'd forgiven him and prayed for him multiple times, I went through a process called theophostic prayer. And it's where somebody who's trained in it, they guide you through a prayer with Jesus, where they bring Jesus into the meditative process. And you start at your earliest memories, and you start with the hurts that happened as early as you can remember. And most of my hurts were easy to kind of just work through, but there was one that I specifically got to where at 12 years old, when that happened to me, I remember I could see it so visually that Jesus, there was this brick wall, and Jesus broke through that brick wall, and there was 12-year-old me. And I got to embrace 12-year-old me. I got to like apologize to 12-year-old me, because that piece of me I bricked up and walled away. And I didn't let experience all of the great things that had happened in my life since then. And it was one of the most transformative processes that I've had, you know, and it led me down a deeper understanding of self and a deeper understanding of the love of God, and how much he wants to just truly heal the deepest parts of us, you know, because humanity is fallen. The world is fallen. and we have to live in it, and in it we can find incredible light, but we have to embrace that light and want it to radiate in us and through us and around us.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it takes incredible strength and incredible faith in order for us to be able to find the ability to do exactly what you're talking about. And it's very difficult. You know, we're distracted. You know, I've
Oh
been
yeah.
distracted at least 15 times in this conversation that I've had with you, with calls, texts, you know what I mean? And obviously, you know, I hate to say it, but I am going to have to get off here because I have another meeting I have to go to. But you know, Tanner, this kind of conversation is exactly the kind of conversation that people need to hear, because they have to start really seriously thinking about the fact that you will not live forever on this physical earth. And there is an accounting for everything that you've done. My grandmother used to tell me this, and it scared me. And I'm glad she told me this, because when I was young, you know, we didn't have cell phones and all that other stuff. I mean, thank goodness. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of things, you know. And my sons told me this one time. They said, when you was a kid growing up, Dad, you didn't have, you know, somebody, you know, sticking a camera in your face. Any dumb thing you did not become a matter of record for eternity. I think that in many cases, technology is great, but in some cases, it's terrible. I think that social media sites that keep anything that's defamatory or nasty. I had a friend, her 13-year-old boy hung himself because of somebody put a stupid video up about him on social media, and he died. You know, um, you know, you struggle with that because you just, you know, you just want to just go slap the faces of the parents who didn't step in. And more importantly, the social media company owners, the multi-millionaires and billionaires that allowed that to be on their platform, and countless requests to take it down that could have saved that boy's life. Are they responsible for his death? I think so. And I think there will be, I think that there will be an accounting for that, for even those that think, well, I really didn't do anything.
Right.
But he's one of thousands of children that have done the same thing because of that.
Yeah.
So my grandmother would tell me when I was a kid, she said, when you die and you go to heaven, we're all going to be there. And all this stuff do you think that you got away with behind our backs, it's going to play like a big movie theater. Okay. So all this stuff, you know, and me at the time, I'm thinking about a lot of things, you know what I mean, that I thought I was doing
Right.
behind closed doors and in the darkness that you didn't think nobody's seeing and hearing about. And at that point in time, it was like that aha moment. But we have become a society to even that doesn't scare people, because and it's like, it's not about being scared. It's about a reverent fear of God. And where is that now? It doesn't exist in some people because they think God doesn't exist. They think that it is. And the most dangerous thing that we could have ever got to in society is when we took God out of everything that we do. And I think there is a movement now to put him back in the center focus. Think what you want to think about Trump or anybody else, you know, but I honestly believe that at least there is the effort being made to say what's right, what's wrong, but ultimately, what would Jesus do? What would God do in this case? And we need to start thinking that way again. I mean, whatever happened to WWJD? You know, it's like, it's going to offend somebody, you know?
Yeah, Jesus was villainized for so long in the mainstream that people were scared to say that they were Christians. I mean, you know, I remember when Chris Pratt went on, I don't remember whether it was the Oscars, the MTV Movie Award, it might have been the MTV Teen Choice Award, something like that. And he got up there and he spoke for about 5 minutes about how everything that he had was because of God.
Yeah.
and his faith in God. And they tried to villainize him for it. And it was really one of the first moments where it really turned the tide, where the public said, "Hey, we really like this guy." And what he's saying, maybe there's some validity to it. There's that line from the movie The Usual Suspects, that's the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's true. It's true. If you think that the evil isn't out there, you're not paying attention. And evil, one of the things that has just been paramount in my life over the past couple of years is the devil isn't this like this entity out there trying to hurt you, right? My Uncle Jim and I talk about this all the time, especially when we talk about addiction and alcohol, and it's the devil's always at the door, right? And the devil is not just like trying to beat down your door, coming to take over your house. The devil's knocking at the door saying, "Hey, you know what? It's not so bad out here. Hey, I don't even want you to open the door. Just look through the keyhole. Just look through the keyhole, and you'll see it's not so bad. We're not doing anything wrong out here. We're just having fun." And so you peek through the keyhole and you go, "Oh no, maybe that's not for me." And the devil keeps knocking and says, you saw it wasn't so bad. Just crack the door a little bit. I don't even want you to come outside. I just want you to crack the door. Just peek your head out. See what's going on out here. It's not so bad. The devil is the king of distraction. He's the king of deception.
Yes.
That's where he gets you. He starts to convince you little by little that these things aren't wrong, or that they're not so bad.
Yeah.
And so you start walking down that path, and with that analogy of the devil's always at the door, every time I open that door, I end up so far on the other side of that door that all of a sudden I turn around and I go, "How did I get here again?"
Yeah.
And it's because of those little distractions. It's those little deceptions. It's the devil isn't trying to destroy your family by coming in and raining hellfire and brimstone on you and destroying everything around you immediately. He wants to take it piece by piece by piece by piece. And the goal isn't to ultimately hurt you. It's to separate you from God. That's the devil's goal.
That's a true statement. And I think that that's a wonderful thing. And I'll tell you, I would love to sit on here with you, but obviously I've got the distractions from all the devils around here now.
Yeah,
There's a lot of them here, man.
I tell you what, my friend, it is so good to finally get to spend some time with you. I really, really appreciate this conversation.
What a blessing. What a blessing.
Dude,
What a blessing.
Captain
Yeah.
and
Man, I
Tanner.
love you, brother. I love what you're doing. Love you, brother. I do.
I
You're my
love you
brother,
too. I
man.
love you too. God bless you. And
He's-
man, what a great conversation.
hold up, hold the train, hold the bus here, boys.
Yeah, you act like it's your show. You act like this is your show. I'm pretty sure Captain McCormick and I just took it over.
Yeah.
No,
we
this
just-
was incredible. No, this was incredible. But to know before adieu, whatever they say, I want to give Val. Okay, I'd like to give her an opportunity just to summarize and or ask each of you before you leave. I was going to say, Captain, before you pop smoke, but you beat me to it, and be able to ask Captain McCormick before he leaves, and Tanner. And Tanner will hang around. Okay, let's keep Tanner around for a little bit. So go ahead, Val, and take 2-3 minutes here.
Okay, thank you. Let's let Captain James go if he's on a schedule, and he and I can have a chat another time on that. If he has to run, he's got to go.
Well,
You wanna
happy
part-
birthday. Yeah, I want to say happy birthday again, lovely lady.
Thank
And
you.
and listen, I'm going to tell you all something. If no one's told you they loved you today, I love you. And not only do I love you guys, but let me tell you, God loved you so much that he gave his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, and whosoever believeth in him shall have everlasting life. And you know what? We'll all be in heaven together, whether we spend any time on this earth physically together. We will definitely, that's the message that I want to deliver to America right now. Put away your bayonets and your hand grenades for each other, man. Figure out something else to do. Go play baseball, or hockey.
Right.
with Greg
Well, there
Meekin.
you go. Would you? I don't. Would you have been out of? Would you have been out of place in those crazy ass campuses in the '60s and the hate Ashbury people? Would you have been a fish out of water?
Who,
Yeah.
me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause that was
Yeah.
before you were born. That was before you were born.
60. Yeah, I was born in 68. So yeah, man. Yeah, man, I would have been out of place. I mean, I felt out of place whenever I was a little kid going to grade school and, St. Albans, West Virginia, and all the craziness was going on there in the early 1970s. Um, it was a tough time. I mean, I can remember being terrified as a kid because, it was high school and grade school. So if you're in kindergarten, trust me, or first grade, you saw all the high school kids and they were all huge. I mean, they were just big kids and they were always arguing, fighting, cussing, quarreling about something. We had the big race riots and stuff. You had all that stuff going on, racial, you had the busing and all of that thing, uh, you know, forced integration, you know, you know, it was a tough time, and I never did understand it, but um, it was a scary time for sure. And of course, Vietnam was winding down. My dad was coming back from his second tour in Vietnam, so it was, yeah, yeah, man, yeah. I would have been a fish out of water.
Where can people find your work and follow you guys, James? You're unbelievable. Go ahead.
Well, right now, what I would like to do is put a pitch out for the Vietnam Veterans of America at www.vva.org. And the great things that this generation is continuing to do for their fellow veterans and Americans. We're having great conversations with everybody in this current administration, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the President of the United States. We've met with them all, and you know, say what you will about everything that's going on. And I know some people don't like to hear this, but they're doing a good job. They really are. And all of this fear mongering that's going on in the media. Remember, these are the same people that told you that it's okay to hate people, it's okay to burn down cities, and all these other things that went on and continue to go on. And we just can't be part of any of that. You know what I mean? We have to be part of something righteous. We got a couple pieces of legislation out there. We'd really like to get congressmen to sign on to a congressional gold medal that's honoring the Donut Dollies. And the Donut Dollies were volunteers during, they've been around for a long time, but in particular during the Vietnam War, there were over 600 of them served and 3 of them were killed in combat. Now, they were volunteers for the Red Cross who, they don't get any benefits, and several of them have died of cancer related to Agent Orange, and they were not taken care of. You know what I mean? So there's, I think that there is a need to recognize the valuable contributions that they made, in the whole mission to take care of service members serving in combat. And then the other one is the TEAMS legislation. It's the Toxic Exposure Environmental Mitigation Study. It's a study that's going to be looking at all of the toxic exposure. You hear about Agent Orange, you hear about burn pits, you hear about Persian Gulf War syndrome, you hear about, poison water at Camp Lejeune and everywhere else and all these things. Well, it's time for us to look at not just what these issues are, but also look at the 30 stateside sites that have problems right now. 30 bases across America have issues with contamination. But more importantly, how is this affecting our biological descendants? And on top of that, we really need to take a study and a look, and we've added a closer look at vaccines. When I went into the Army, they shot me in both arms with vaccines. I have no idea what I got, but I know I got several shots all in one day. I had people that literally got sick. I had a guy that passed out in line in front of me after he got his shot, must have had an allergic reaction. I seen all of these things occur. The fact that, the wake-up call was during the COVID vaccine, but how has that affected our biological descendants? And nobody is doing a study. So Senator Kennedy needs to make this a priority. Teams needs to be looked at. So when you look at toxic exposure, toxic exposure, environmental mitigation study, mitigation is the key word. We're trying to mitigate future issues so that every time we go to war or every time that somebody serves in the military, maybe it would be good to have a generation that didn't have the fallout that follows you for life. It killed my dad. It killed my uncle, cancer. Very young men when they died. So, and what was their crime for that? Their crime was serving their country in war. That is not a crime. That is an honorable thing to do. And I think that if you're really going to say, I'm going to take care of veterans, you got to take care of the veterans. But more importantly, how is this affecting their kids and their grandkids? Maybe we have the answer for why we have higher rates of autism and all these other things that are going on. My grandson's autistic, folks, and it's like, what happened? What caused that? And you're never going to find out unless you do the studies. So we're asking, that's the call I'm getting ready to get on here in like 10 minutes. So please
God love you. Thank you, Captain.
support us.
And when's the last time you chatted with the president?
I chat with his staff about once a week.
Okay, cool. Next show,
I
maybe
have
tell,
a personal cell phone number with a person that can talk directly to the president. Not
Next-
everybody has that opportunity.
next show, please tell Tanner about the ties, the Trump ties, the 6 of them next time.
Yeah, I will, man. Yeah.
Cool. God love you.
Hey, God love you too. And if you guys need anything, let us know. There's a great place for you to go on and sign up for updates at vva.org. And then you can send me emails at jmccormick@vva.org. God bless you. And thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. God bless you. God bless you, Captain McCormick. Thank you so much.
Peace out, folks.
Wow, that was great. I love our updates from Captain James.
Take the mic for a couple of minutes, Val Olson.
Well, I
Really
just
did.
loved that conversation. I think that's that's an honest conversation. I used to have a segment on X called Honest Conversations, and I think that there are so many sides to that heavy discussion, talking about pedophilia, and that's something near and dear to my heart as a mother. And I also feel just a responsibility as an adult, as an advocate for law and order and justice, that it's important that to uphold the law, there has to be respect. There has to be a respect for the law. Coming from Canada, where it's a free for all. So in our prison system, when you talk about rehabilitation, because there was not a place for a discussion like we're having, an honest conversation, it was very one-sided. When it comes to restoration, they took away responsibility and personal accountability and replaced it with poems, reading poems while you're in prison as a form of responsibility, and now you're rehabilitated. So if you've read through X amount of poems, you are good. You can be now reintegrated. And I think it can be hard for Christians to know how to take a stand, because sometimes taking a political stand can be misconstrued as not accepting a punch in the face. So as a Christian, when I hear, well, just turn the other cheek, I turn my other cheek and I turn it back again. And I don't fear a punch in the face. I've been punched in the face. So I'm prepared, you know how to prepare for it, you know how to treat it. But I think it's really important to say that law and order has to be there for a reason. And so when it comes to a crime like that, especially when it's happening in congregations, etc., I think if we allowed parents to protect their children or be a part of how it's handled, I think that there would be more fear and more reverence towards the role of, well, I don't think there'd be as much abuse if say in your case, if you're molested and you knew that parent had free reign to, be involved in your punishment. I think it would cut back a lot. It would make people think twice. But when they know the worst case scenario is, oh, well, I can't be threatened with something, it leaves an entire gamut of potential opportunities for them to work their way out of accountability and responsibility. So as a Christian, my life, I believe my days are numbered, and God numbers those days. He knows the beginning from the end from the beginning, and my life is in his hands. I mean, I could, or anybody could, be falsely accused of something. I don't live in fear of that. I live knowing that I have personal accountability. And so no matter what, God is, he is the judge. He is the only one who can judge a man's heart. We can't do that, but we can go into these situations being able to lead people who are at the very end, or at the very beginning. But it's our values, it's our own fruit that they will see. And we're able to say, you did the crime, you did the time, and give them that opportunity to know God, because we are ambassadors. So I think that we, whether it's in church or it's in a prison or it's in the grocery store, it doesn't matter where, but we can come and give the good news, because that's what the gospel is. It's the good news. So I'm not afraid to share the gospel with a pedophile. I'm not afraid to share the gospel with the president. I'm not afraid to share the gospel with man, because that is what I'm tasked to do. But I'm also a firm believer in law and order. And when there's a focus on children in the Bible that says, and Pastor Rios, we're going to bring him in here because he's in the green room knocking on the door. There is a scripture that, and I'm going to read it, that talks about if anyone harms children, I'm going to bring Pastor Rios in. That's a great time. Maybe he can come in and go into that. But the responsibility of what happens, our responsibility towards children, that if someone is to lead them astray, that there is an accountability there, a spiritual accountability, but that puts it back into the natural on us, that we have to uphold that and say, if God has given us instruction and we just toss it to the side, no, we can't. We have a responsibility as leadership under that it's like a map, right? It tells us, the outcome. So that's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. I'm going to throw it over to Pastor Rios. Nothing like coming in the hot seat here, Pastor Rios.
I'm here. By the way, happy birthday.
Thank you, April 1st.
Yeah. So no, I just what a great just kind of segue here, and the passage of scripture that you're referring to was, and Jesus said, if you offend, one of these small children, it'd be better that they put a millstone around your neck and throw you into the ocean. In other words, he was making a statement to the people of the value of children and the value of the future. And I think, I had an opportunity to serve in youth ministry for 15 years and working with young people, and you get them when they are, have gathered a lot of life and a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. And I'm dealing with a situation with my sons right now, just kind of navigating through some challenging life situations. He's been raised in a great home. He's been raised in a pastor's home, and yet he's still sorting life issues and those challenges. And I think, it's important that we value that, but I think it kind of even gets into, Jesus is even purpose to come to this earth and bring salvation and bring redemption and regeneration. Is he made the statement that if you're going to get in the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like one of these children. You have to have, so that element of, obviously we have to grow up and, we mature and become adults, but like that childlike faith that believes and is easy to forgive and is easy to believe and easy to have that sense of expectation that a child does have. I think it's important that we have that value system. And in our world today, there is a heavy element of darkness that's fighting against our children. It's a barrage of just fiery darts that are coming at our children, and because the devil knows that that's our future, that's the future of humanity is our children.
Pastor Rios, it's good to see you again.
Yes,
You're
Greg.
you're Generation X multitasking. You're driving while you're doing a live stream, right? Okay, yeah, there we go. Anyhow, good to see you again. They'll let anybody on this radio show, Tanner. Anywho, Pastor Rios is a 49ers fan.
All
And while
day long.
dude,
All day long.
while he is a cool pastor guy on camera, he trashes me in the Seattle Seahawks all the time, Tanner, all the time. Anyhow, Pastor Rio, thank you. Introducing you, Pastor Rios, to my son, Tanner.
Nice to meet you,
Hi, Pastor
Tanner.
Rios. Nice to meet you as well.
I wanted to connect some key people today. One is you. Thank you, Jesus, for you parachuting in today. It means a lot to me. It really, really does. I want to, before I forget, the ticket to ride this train today was a story about fatherhood. Yeah. I'm just going to turn the mic back to you. You take as long as you want, a minute, 10 minutes, whatever. Thank you, Pastor.
No, I am honored to be here with you. It's a blessing to have people in your life like you and Val, and now to meet your son. And, when you reached out to me, it was extremely divine because, today I'm traveling and I just got a news alert that the 49ers draft needs. That's kind of funny on my phone there, the 49ers. Um, I'm here. I'm traveling with my son, and we started a suit business about 5 years ago, and we've just seen some incredible things. And the last 6 months have been somewhat painful, going through growth spurts and trying to scale to the next level and moving outside of just a small setting to something that is a national brand. And we're headed right now to Chicago, and we got an office in DC now. We have an office in Palm Beach, and we're trying to go through those pain points of trying to facilitate and put people in place and whatever. But I think what was so unique that I felt compelled to jump in today with you was the theme was fatherhood and what that means, and try to walk through this as best I can. But 3 years ago today was the last time that I got to see my father. And we were actually having a grand opening for our brick and mortar location in Oxford, Mississippi. And I'll never forget that day. He walked in and smiled and just was just beaming from ear to ear because of how proud he was for his son and his grand boy. And we're in this new journey, and we're kind of like navigating the halfway point of this point we're in now. And he just smiled, and he was so happy for us. And Chandler, my son who's driving now, actually helped walk him out to the car, and we put him in the car. And that was on a Friday. And the next day we went to Little Rock for a drama. And we were driving home from Little Rock, and my mother called us that my father had laid down, took his last breath, and went on to be with the Lord. So tomorrow we will actually remember the 3 years that he has been gone. I think the uniqueness of the story is that for 27 years, he fought with Parkinson's disease. I'm sorry. Um, I think the most challenging thing for me was we had just talked about spending time together. We had just talked about we were going to go golf together, and he was on the mend from being sick, coming out of COVID, really sick during COVID, and we were so excited about, hey, I'm going to start spending some more time with you. And he came in, celebrated this marker moment, and said, "You guys are in good shape," and went on to receive his heavenly reward. I share that with you today in this series and conversations of fatherhood that sons, you got to value that time because you don't know how much time your father has, no matter where it is. I mean, we see so many challenges in health today, and different things that can take over, the life of somebody. But fathers also, I would speak into your life to understand the value. And I know sometimes we want to see our sons reach certain potential and do certain things and navigate certain things, but that value that a father does bring, and that doesn't disvalue a mother. I thank God for my mother, and thank God for Valerie, and thank God for every woman that's ever brought a child into this world. I couldn't imagine that process, but value that moment that you have, but also now on this side of the equation, um, I use this moment even to celebrate just the amazing life and the legacy that was passed down to me. And when I wake up every single day, I live to fight for my family and take what Dad passed. And Tanner, your dad's an amazing man. He's done some amazing things. He's just an inspiration to me. Every time he texts me, I probably should do a better job texting him and just talking some more trash since they just lost DK Metcalf, and it's really going to get bad for them Seattle Seahawks now.
Yeah,
But
I don't think so. I mean, we got Cooper Culp, and
okay, okay,
so yeah.
okay. But just my dad told me, he said Rios don't quit. And so I take those things that he said and I look at them and I say, hey, how do we move the meter? And Val just kind of jumped in, at a great finish to your monologue there of, we have a mandate to share the gospel, to share the good news. You know, we don't have to be afraid of the sin or the sinner. We just have to be driven to share love and live to the fullest of our capacity. It's painful sometimes. It's hard sometimes. A few weeks ago, I was ready to throw in the towel. But today, I find a refreshing opportunity to even be able to share, hey, you know what? Sometimes it hurts. And, I miss my dad. I wish I had a few more minutes with him. But I am grateful for what he did leave me, the legacy. And I just want to encourage a dad have had some challenges with a son or a daughter, don't be afraid to go back and try to restore that. And if a son, you've had some challenges with your father, and there's been some, you know, uh, don't be afraid to, rekindle that moment that we share as a father to a son or a daughter, or a son and daughter to a father.
Wow, that is powerful. Powerful. I love what you said. Rios is we never quit.
Real
And
sister, real.
yeah, isn't that like, I think that's in your DNA. It gets passed down, and that spirit of fighting and never giving up. To me, that's the embodiment of a fearless Christian, of being able to go in any situation, anywhere, and we never quit. We
Never quit.
we just keep going. And that's the standard. That's what it's all about. Thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful.
Yeah, Pastor Rios. Pastor Rios.
Yes,
It's
sir.
usually only Mike Phillip that makes me cry, man. Cry. And whenever the Toronto Maple Leafs win a Stanley Cup, which was 1967. Anywho, I want to give. You okay time wise here, Pastor?
Yeah. I mean, I've got 8 hours to Chicago, so
Dude, Generation X males, which are
yeah,
totally different than Generation X females.
right.
Generation X females have their ducks in a row.
That's
Okay.
right.
Gen X males are running by the seat of their pants. I want to actually, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply moved, obviously, more to talk about, but I would like to give the mic for a minute. Boy, I'm gonna lose it today, Pastor. To my son Tanner.
Yeah.
And you just share whatever you want. You met Pastor Rios for the first time. Wait to hear this guy's network. Tanner, he's got an office in Washington, D.C. too. Anywho, everybody's from D.C. here. Anywho, take as long as you want, whatever. Do a Tanner monologue, but to connect with Pastor Rios. This guy, Rios, flew into Phoenix and then drove a rental car down to Casa Grande, Arizona. To pray over your mom when she's going to have her hip replacement in front of the hospital. Dude, and I'll tell you what, prayer works, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to you, Tanner, and I'm going to actually take my cam off and mute for a while here while I lose it.
So he can bawl like a baby. Well, Pastor Rios, pleasure to meet you.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you,
Yeah.
Tanner.
Yeah, thank you so much for the prayers for my mom. Thank you for your incredible, impactful story. You know, the impact our fathers have on us sometimes are we recognize it when they're with us, and you know, it becomes so much more resolute when they're not. You know, I actually have I have two fathers. You know, Greg has been my father for my entire life. He took me on when I was 3.5 years old. And I didn't meet my real father until I was 27 years old, and he passed when I was 30. You know, many of the life lessons that I carry into fatherhood, I learned from Greg. So I don't know if we lost Pastor Rios.
It looks like we have. He's coming back in. Here he is.
I'm sorry.
No,
That's okay.
you're good. You're traveling. Yeah, you're gonna pass through some spotty areas.
Go ahead, Tanner. That was
Yeah. So you know, I guess, you know, how did you meet Greg? How did you meet my dad? How did you meet my mom?
So I actually met your father through Mike Phillip, and
Okay.
I met Mike Phillip actually I had gathered a kidney stone and was flat on my back, and was one day just kind of sifting through Rumble and came across Mike Phillip, and I thought, man, this is amazing. And you know, he was sharing some Bible study elements, and I'm like, wow, this is exciting. And was sorting through, you know, the Bible, and it with me, you know, the and had and how God has manifested Himself, and so it was really cool. And so I, you know, really in and friendship, and I would go citizen with weekend, and so with the show radio voice. And so from there, that's kind of how we connected. And, I think divine element comes in play.
Val, you're on mute.
I think we lost Pastor Rios. He is in a bad service area.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just shoot him a message here and let him know. If he wants
Yeah,
to
I
talk.
mean, what I heard from that is that he found Mike Phillip on Rumble, and then kind of probably stumbled across Greg on one of Mike Phillip's shows, and there seemed to have been a divine connection there. So that's awesome. God works in the most amazing ways.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm gonna bring Greg back in here if I can.
Is he done crying? Yeah, you're on mute. You got your stuff together, man?
Oh,
You all right?
dude. Anyhow, yeah, that was this has been a really good show. I really want Val, if you could, to timestamp where Pastor Rios left off. I've heard this story, and it's so cool because it's the details in between how he fumbled across Mike Phillip and stuff. So that was really, really good. Actually, I'll turn Sarah just for now. We'll see again if Pastor Rios will come in. I really want him loud and clear if we can. And I definitely would like to have him close out prayer because he's really good at it, eh? Like he's really good at it. But let me do this. I'll turn it back to you here, Val, but I want to let's just take me out of the camera here. But you and Tanner here, just chit chat. I know you have stuff to say, and I know Tanner, I know you always got awesome stuff to say, but kind of the summary of this show and what you're getting from it and blah blah. But just you and Tanner, go ahead.
Okay,
You gonna go cry some more?
What was that now, Tanner? What was that, Tanner?
Are you gonna go cry some more?
Whoops, I accidentally cut him off. Pastor Rios, I'm going to bring you back in, but I'm just going to let you know that you are cutting in and out. So I'm going to bring you up, but I think you're in a bad service area. So
Okay. I think I hit a vein, and I was getting some phone calls on my phone. So I went ahead and my son taught me, see that father son stuff, taught me how to put the do not disturb on so people will stop calling. So I think I'm okay. I got on do
Okay.
not disturb, and I think we're good. So
all
yeah.
right.
Good. Well, so I'm sorry, I only caught just a very, very brief bit of what you were saying about how you stumbled across my dad. I heard that you found Mike Phillip on Rumble. He was sharing some stuff about the Bible, and then you kind of cut out, and then I heard, I made an assumption that you heard Greg on Mike's show.
Yes. So I was listening one day, and Mike had a segment with your father, the dueling citizen, and with Greg freaking Meekin, and so just was really impressed with your father and just his passion, and he's articulate, as a wonderful radio voice. Like, it's just like really cool. And so I was just kind of intrigued with it, but I think it was kind of like the divine element. And I think it was even today, him reaching out, this has been somewhat therapeutic for me, even, talking through my father, the loss of my father, and the fact he reached out to me. And today's the anniversary. Tomorrow is the passing, and this conversation and whatever. But, I just happened to be preaching in Arizona that week. And I just reached out to him, and he said, "Hey, Mom, I'm taking my wife to surgery." And that's when I was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be far." So I drove down and met them at the hospital. And that's actually where I met Val, actually that same day. So, I think that's just the cool thing about living in the space that I live in, and that I've tried to dedicate my life to. And I think it's a space that anybody can live in, whether they're a pastor or not. Paul wrote to the church at Rome in his 8th letter to them, let us not live, let us not let not condemnation overcome you and hold you back. And the way you do that is by walking in the spirit and not after the flesh. And when you walk in the spirit, these cool moments happen. God leads you. And again, it doesn't mean that life's going to be easy. It's going to be tough, but you
Yeah.
find peace, like the scripture says, that passeth all understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, the book of Romans happens to be my favorite book in the entire Bible. I every time I read through
Wow,
it,
it's amazing.
Paul writing to essentially the most fallen banalistic society
Yeah,
in the world at that point in time, and
yeah,
still saying, look, there is salvation for everyone, including you.
that's right. And I
Yeah.
think the challenge that the Romans, I mean, not to kind of tangent onto the, do a Bible study, but the deal with the Romans is they were there on the day of Pentecost. They experienced what, Peter proclaimed. Because I mean, it's apparent, when the list of who was there is documented, the Romans were there. So they experienced that, they saw that, they heard the declaration Peter made in Acts 2:38, and repent, baptism, and the Holy Spirit, and all that goes with that. And now they go back and they establish the church, and they're like, well, maybe that was just a moment. And so Peter has to remind them, no, this is, you know you've experienced that process of salvation. Now just reach out, call on the name of the Lord. So I think
Yeah.
that's important for us, and it's important for a lot of people to understand, because a lot of people have initial experiences at church, and so they experience these things, and then they go, and then they fall and they fail and they get frustrated, and they just feel like, man, no, you can be redeemed. Nothing can separate you from the love of Jesus Christ.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So Pastor Rios, what got you into ministry?
As a kid, I was, I loved church, raised in church, and my mother, really, I guess, fostered, the church in my life. And as a young boy, there was a man in the church that, made a prophetic proclamation that, I would one day be a preacher or a fireball preacher and whatever. And so I never really kind of, I was a kid, so I didn't really understand all that was. And then as I began to grow up, got involved with the youth group. And the first time I spoke, I had 20 pages of notes, and I talked for like 7 minutes, and I was done. I was like, that is not going to happen. Right. And so
Right.
I just kind of I played basketball in high school, played sports, and I had an opportunity to walk on to some junior colleges, because I wasn't a very tall guy. I was about 5'6", still in 5'6", but so but I still could have an opportunity to play basketball or baseball, get my college paid for. I wanted to get into business administration, and my dad said, give me 1 year of Bible college, seminary, Bible school, and if you feel a call, then you can pursue that. If you don't, you're still young enough. You could go pivot and, work on a degree. And so after my freshman year of Bible college, I got a phone call from a pastor in Delaware that asked me to come serve in his church, intern for the summer. And I went to Delaware, which was a unique experience. Like it was like Milford, Delaware, like where the last show was at 5:45. Like the town shut down at like 8 p.m. And so it was really, unique experience. My first time on the East Coast in Delaware. But I had a really cool experience working in the church with the music department. I played a little piano, and then with the youth. And I thought, you know what? I think this is where I'm supposed to be. And so I went back and finished my degree. And then it was just, again, that divine leading of the Spirit, and just, felt God leading me, create an opportunity to go work at a church in Southern California. And then from there, it was just like, I had an opportunity to be in full-time ministry until I moved to Oxford. And that's when I decided to try my call at a church plant. And so we had to move into a bivocational, state of operation. Obviously, when you don't have a lot of people and you start from scratch, and we didn't have a team or a budget, we just kind of jumped in, parachuted in. But, that was kind of my journey. At 19, I went full time, and I've been grateful for the opportunity to be in ministry.
That's incredible. And what I love about that is that, if your dad doesn't come to you and say, "Hey, I want you to try this for a year,"
That's right.
you wouldn't be in that position today.
No, and he said, just give me 1 year. And it was fair. I said, okay, that's fair. He said, you're still good athletically to where you could go, get out there and do that. And so that 1 year, I was like, man, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, I could go play sports, but even that life is very short. There's only a few LeBrons that play 20 years, or whatever.
Right.
So I said, why wait 10 years to pursue something that's on my life? And so I was grateful that my dad, just offered that the way he offered it, but I'm grateful that I accepted it. Ministry is painful at times.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard, it's watching people come and go and people misunderstanding your motive, but I am the most fulfilled. I tried to walk away from it. Trust me, several times. I'm like, you know what? I'm not cut out for this, but I find the most fulfillment at the end of the day in that call that I feel like the Lord placed on my life.
Yeah. I heard it said the other day that, anybody that, comes up and says, I'm going to be a preacher, they're probably not the right person for ministry.
That's probably true.
It's the ones that fight against it and constantly consider, am I the right person for this?
Yeah.
Am I doing what God's calling me to do?
Yeah.
The doubt that goes along with it. They're the ones who truly are called because God's
Yeah.
doing work in you. He's stretching you. He's refining you in fire.
Yeah. Well, I think, and for me, I just don't want to waste people's time. I tell our people on a consistent basis, man, if I ever get out of this book, you need to leave as fast as you got here. Okay. And, I've told people I carry the responsibility that I'm sharing with them the truth. I'm sharing with them, the gospel that, and it, I've looked at my wife and said, babe, if I'm not capable of doing this, then I'll resign and go get a job at Walmart. For me to not get it right, and for me to not be right, and for me not to do right when it comes to and obviously I don't, and people have to make the decision, to take what's said and what's poured into their life and respond to the word and respond to the conversation and the enlightenment that a preacher can bring of the word. But I don't ever want to get in the way.
Yeah. So now you also own a suit business.
In 2000, I looked at my 15-year-old son and said, hey, you want to start a suit business? We were trying to move the meter. Wanted to buy a clear in Oxford, and so we just were trying to get creative on ways to subsidize income. And so he's like, yeah, Dad, let's do it. And so September of 2019, we launched our little suit company called Blue Thread. And then 2020, COVID hit and everything shut down. And we thought, oh, wait, maybe we got in the wrong business. Maybe we'll sell sport coats and shorts. And so we kind of got through COVID year, and it was actually kind of a unique situation for us because we were able to kind of learn the craft of the custom industry. And then 21, we kind of launched out into the deep, and we did 110 suits in 21. Then 22, it kind of took off. We did 347 suits, and then 2000, or then the year 3, which was, I guess, 23, we did 692 suits. And then last year we did over 1,100 The uniqueness of it is we hand delivered about 800 of those. And so
Wow.
we have put some miles. I bought a van for the boys this last August so they could travel, because I have another son that works with, he's a little younger than my son Chandler here. And we bought the van with 7,000 miles in August, and right now it's got 76,000 miles on it. So they have
Oh,
put
wow.
some miles on the road, traveling the country, just trying to do their best to create a unique custom experience. So yeah, that's kind of our journey right now. And my goal is by the end of the year of this year is to kind of step back. And it's taken me away from the church, but the last couple of years having to travel so much, not been able to be in the city as much as I'd want to in Oxford. But it's been awesome. I won't trade it for nothing. All the challenges we've been through as a family, as a team, growing. Um, we're just learning, and so my goal is by the end of the year I can kind of step back and release more to my son, who is my second son, who's planning on getting married here at the
Awesome.
end of the year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, at the end of the year. And so I will have two sons married in 1 year.
Nice.
My oldest got married February 13th. So, yeah,
Congratulations.
so I'm kind of, we're just kind of, I guess, always got to do it a little different. And so, but it's exciting. It's an exciting journey. And so we thank the Lord for this opportunity.
Yeah, what I really like about that story is that 2009, you guys decide that you're going to branch out and you're going to do this, and then 2020 hits and COVID hits, and instead of retreating, Captain James McCormick and I were just talking about retreating.
Yeah.
Instead of retreating, it became a blessing for you to hone.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Hone and
You're right.
develop.
Yeah. And it was so like there was so much unknown. Like, is this what's going to happen from here? And so, and I think it goes back. I think we circle all the way back to, that element of what I wanted to share today with the stories of why I shared my dad's story and the importance of a father and what he poured into me and the impact that a father will make and leave. And you can't be afraid of that. As my father put that in us, he said, Rioses don't quit. And so we just had to figure it out. We have to figure out how to make this work,
Yeah. No retreat, no surrender.
No retreat, no surrender.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a jacket one of these days, a sport coat that has that on each side, on each panel monogrammed. No
All right, I
retreat,
love it.
no surrender.
Yeah, I'm all over that. So you said it's your son Chandler in the car with you right now?
Yes, sir. Old Chandler.
What's up, Chandler?
Yes, sir.
So you told a story about fatherhood as your father, but what about a story of fatherhood with Chandler? I mean, obviously you started a business, so I'm sure there's a lot of pride stories there, but what's another fatherhood story there? Or what's a story that Chandler would tell about fatherhood of Pastor Rios?
Oh man, well let me go ahead and we'll do this cautiously, but
Well, I didn't know I was going to be doing this today. But hello, everybody. My name is
Hey, Chandler.
Chandler, and there's a lot of stories. And when I say a lot, like that's an understatement. There's so many amazing, fun, hard, terrible stories. But I will say, just to kind of bring it all together, is really just the adventures that we go on. A lot of people don't really see the behind the scenes of the getting up early, staying up late, driving all night, adventures that we've been on, the different nights of driving all night and sleeping in the car, then getting up the next day, stopping at a gas station and getting freshened up, then going right into a fitting. And so I would just say nothing really specific because we could be here all day with a bunch of stories, but I would just say there's so many different adventures of the things that we get to see, and the different journeys of going to different states and different cities, and really enjoying that with my father and my family, a part of this journey. So I'm very blessed, and I would just say all the crazy adventures that Blue Thread does. So
It's awesome. So how would you say traveling together that much? Because obviously you spend a lot of time in the car together. How has that built the bond between you guys?
Well, I'll tell you, sometimes it can get a little challenging because I'm like, hey, get off of Instagram. We got work to do, you know? And then it's like, then I have to figure out, well, you know what? We have been working for about 16 hours. I probably should let them have a little bit of fun. Um, but, you know, I think the beauty of our journey has been, you know, we recognize the roles because what's so unique is we work together in this business, and then I pastor and he plays the drums at the church for us, and then he's also, him and his fiance are leading our youth ministry, so now I work with them and navigate those pieces, and then I have to be his dad. And I think sometimes it can be a challenge, because it seems like we're with each other like every day, all day. And for the last 5 years, a lot of days together. But I think the way that you make it work, because sometimes people are like, well, it can't work. And no, I think you just have to learn to recognize where you're at and the process. And then, I mean, as a father, I've got to step back and give the guy some space. But
Yeah.
also, I don't want to give him so much space that we start losing ground. And, I told him and his fiance yesterday in our staff meeting, I said, hey, you guys are going to have to work hard now, because in 5 years, you guys are going to be able to not have to work as hard because you've built such an incredible, business, or you got now, stores all over the country that are generating revenue, or you're just focusing on that development. And so it is challenging. It is hard. But, the other side of it is he could be, living in North Carolina, and I could be living here and I'm not get to see him, which, sometimes does happen and will happen. I left California for Mississippi, and I know sometimes there are seasons, that children leave that space, of being home or near their family or near their parents, and there's nothing wrong with that. If I would have never left California, I don't think I would be living my destiny right now. And so, it's challenging, but I think if you can say, okay, hey, you know what? Where do we need to adjust? Where does dad need to adjust? My other son, he's been going through a little bit of a valley, and we've been pushing hard, and he's like, Dad, I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I don't think I can do this anymore. I said, you know what? No, you can. We're just going to kind of regroup, and we're going to reposition you. And we understand that his long play is potentially to be the next pastor of our church. And so I think you just really got to step back and evaluate where you're at as an individual. What do I need to adjust? And then, you step back and you think of, like you said, all the cool stories that experiences, like where we're headed. We're headed to Chicago, right? So a cool story with this, for their birthdays, I would take them, like for their 10th birthday. I would take them somewhere for their birthdays. It's a real organic thing, right? For their 16th birthday, their mom would take them out on a trip for 3 days. They turned 18, then me and their mother would take them on a trip together for their 18th birthday. And then when they turned 21, they take their mom and me on a trip, right? So that's kind of, we don't do birthday parties. We just kind of done these trips. They're amazing. It's been awesome. And so we go to Chicago for his birthday because he wanted to go to a Bulls game. I think they were playing the Warriors or something like that. The Warriors are his favorite team. So we go to Chicago. We get tickets for the Warriors game. We go hang out at the Warriors game, and all of us, we're there for pregame. And this guy walks up to me and he says, Nate Rios. And I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, who are you? He's like, man, I heard you speak at an event. I'm like, oh, man, nice to meet you. He said, I pastor a church right down the road in Portage, Indiana, or whatever. And I'm like, man, that's cool. It's awesome. Nice to meet you. And yeah, good to see you. Blah, 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 blah. Right. So we meet this man at a Chicago Bulls game at his birthday event. 3 weeks ago, the pastor calls me and says, hey, he says, man, we want you to come and we wanted you to do a fitting and a pop up and I want you to speak for us. And I'm like, man, that's great. That's awesome. And so now this family moment that we had, this experience that we created, now we're going back and we're going to do a pop up, put some suits on the pastor and some of his young men in his church and get to speak. And now we're going to get to celebrate Chicago in a really neat setting. So, that's what
Man,
you just,
God is so good.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't make that up. Like, if we would have never went to Chicago, never met this guy at the basketball game, like miles away from Oxford, randomly running into this guy at a Bulls game.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So,
Does your family have a verse that you hold on to?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I guess we would say Deuteronomy 6:4 has been a anchor for us, and I think that's important for our family to understand the value of Christianity, where it came from. Obviously, it birthed out of Judaism and the Hebrew culture and whatever, but that was a staple where the children of Israel would uh, uh, you know shape their children to learn the Shema. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And that was kind of a staple that we taught them as children, to navigate that and to hold on to that. So they all would say it as children, the Shema in Hebrew, and then they would repeat it in English, and we would always add in English, when because of our understanding that God, manifested himself in flesh and came down to this earth and, named himself Jesus. We in our Shema in English with Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, his name is Jesus. And so I think that's been important to us to understand the value point of, our salvation and who God is and who Jesus is and what he's done for us. But I think maybe if there was a scripture verse outside of something to that effect, it would probably be Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ,
Yeah.
which strengthened us. And I think that's what becomes a bedrock in a lot of moments when we feel like giving up the towel. We got 300 people wanting to know where their suits are at.
Yeah. Yeah. Good verses. Good verses. So why Blue Thread? Where did the name Blue Thread
Beautiful
come from?
question. So that's a little bit of a lengthy story. I'll try to just give you the short story. I also have started a student leadership concept. I love young people working in schools. And so we started this concept about 2011. What we launched was an anti-bully, team building, life skills, leadership development piece for schools. And so it was kind of built from a concept of a statement that that caught my attention was, if you really knew me. And so we kind of use this piece to kind of go into schools and create conversations with kids. And so we started as a movement, but I thought, you know what, and I want to have a foundation that's got, stability and credibility outside of just a movement of kids. And so we started looking for a brand to brand a foundation that could impact student leadership. And so I was reading one day, we kind of had this idea of threads and weaving lives back together. And I kind of had this idea of blue. I love the color blue. Blue represents hope, the blue skies and all that. And so, but I thought, well, man, blue thread or blue strings, you can't really walk into a school. They're going to think you're a clothes company. So I was reading my devotion one day in the book of Numbers, chapter 15, verse 38. And the Bible says that the Lord spoke to Moses and said, hey, Moses, I want you to tell the children of Israel to put on the fringe of their garments a ribbon of blue, and that they would remember all the commandments and all that I've spoken to your life. And it really resonated. I mean, I love that word ribbon kind of just like jumped off the page. And so the word ribbon, R-I-B-B-A-N-D, in the Hebrew is thread. And so I thought, oh man, like that's really cool. It's not thread, it's ribbon. And so it's a unique word. It's not a word that's probably used a lot. And so I thought, man, that would be great. We're the Blue Ribbon Life Student Leadership Organization. And I thought, that's perfect. Until I called my friend who was a lot smarter than me. His name's Ron Mattis. And he said, hey, do you know what the word ribbon means? I'm like, yeah, thread. He's like, no, that might mean thread in the Hebrew, but in the English, that word ribbon is the center beam of a boat. And I thought, oh
Mm.
my Lord, and so then it started hitting me like, okay, here we want to go into these schools to develop students, to develop leaders, to help teach students to be entrepreneurs and help them to, develop in the next generation. And I thought, man, and then it's like this whole element, we wanted to teach kids to stay in the boat, like don't jump out of the boat, like stay. We're all in the same boat. It's called life. It's painful. It's hard. And so the idea was, man, let's shape boats and let's shape lives, and let's take these boats and turn them into ships, because boats can't go to sea, right? They get tore up by this. But you have to develop ships, and ships can get, and they move across, the oceans, and they were able to handle the storms. And so we just kind of like started shaping this. We had an idea that we wanted to start, these thrift store ideas where kids could come and we would go get clothes from, athletes, and they would bring them in and we, resell them and give kids opportunity to work jobs. And we're going to do this shop and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden we thought, we got to the point of, well, let's start a suit business, because I had a player at Ole Miss that I'd put a suit on when I started my first job in Oxford, when we moved there to plant a church at Joseph A. Bank, which got us in the suit industry. I put a suit on a guy that played baseball at Ole Miss. He got drafted by the Dodgers and reached back out and said, why don't you be my personal clothier? And so at that particular point, I thought, you know what? The whole idea of Blue Ribbon Life was to develop students to be entrepreneurs, to be leaders, to start. Why not me do it with my son? And so there
Yeah.
was birthed the Blue Thread Project. So we've kind of used this as a unique development piece. And so now we're kind of moving it through, and we're kind of shaping and setting the table to, say, okay, Chandler, you're going to go on your own. And so we're going to drop the project, rebrand Blue Thread, and that will become his. And then the young lady that he is planning to marry started another lane called Lady Blue, which is a female ladies custom experience. And so it's pretty cool how, the young lady that he actually grew up with in Columbia, Mississippi, is now diving into the same industry. They're working together, and they're driving Lady Blue and Blue Thread. So, it's kind of, again, going all the way back to that scriptural, spiritual journey that has kind of shaped our lives.
Very, very cool. Very cool. I think that's a perfect way to turn it back over to Val and my dad.
Awesome.
I know they want you to close out in prayer. I don't know what time
Yeah.
they're looking at that for, but Pastor Rios, a pleasure talking to you, man.
No,
Super cool.
honor to
And
meet
thank
you. And you're gonna carry on your dad. You do well. You're gonna carry on the Meekin legacy there.
Well, and thank you so much for praying over my mom. I mean,
Absolutely.
that means a lot.
That was
Yes, sir.
that was really an amazing moment. We have some photos of that. We'll do another time. Really was, because Val Olson, imagine that. Val listens into everything. She doesn't miss anything. She's been doing that today, but she texted me after you met with Deborah and me
Wow.
in front of the hospital, and Val showed up as the amazing investigative journalist she is. She drove up from Florence, Arizona to meet you.
Wow.
So, but she texted me like within hours after you prayed
No,
over
you're on
Deborah.
mute.
Oh,
I just
No?
said it was so cool that I was listening on the radio, and Pastor Rios was on with Mike Phillip, and then like the next day he was in Arizona. What's the chance of just it happening that fast. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that. So when Greg said, yeah, Pastor Rios is going to be there, can you get here? I'm like, of course I can, but in what world can we just listen on the radio one day and the next day, boom, he's there? And so it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you and pray together. And yeah, it was
Because
wonderful.
she had Val. It was so cool because Val, she texted me, and she said, "Do you remember when Pastor Rios prayed over Deborah yesterday?" She said, "That's what it feels like. That's what prayer feels." I mean that, and because Val's reporting to me, right? She debriefing with me, and she says, "This guy Rios is the real deal. Like whatever prayer is supposed to be, including changing stuff with faith and glory." She said, "That's what it is." So I said, cool. Val, do you have any, let's kind of wrap it up. Imagine that. But we're going to cut Tanner loose. We're going to cut Pastor Rios loose. And then we'll go with you and me for debriefing afterwards. It's going to be this is like just one in a million. Okay. My heart now, I can't believe it. Listening to you two. It's good radio when you sit and you're watching your own show like The Guest. I mean, I'm sitting off, and this is a show unto itself. These are two people. I'll tell you what, media training and everything else. These are two amazing people right here, Tanner and Nathaniel. So I will definitely have you, Pastor Rios, close in prayer. But Val, do a quick little wrap up. I say now, kind of to you, Tanner and Pastor Rios, dudes. Thank you. Okay. It was really, really, really good. I think in my heart that this was Tanner's day and this was Pastor Rios's day.
Appreciate that.
That's what I've been watching.
Thank
Val,
I'll do a recap because today is episode 001 of Secrets from the Inside. And it's really high level conversation. We were thrilled to have Tanner here, as well as Captain James dropped in, and we went into honest conversation, which I love, just real. And that's what it is about this show that separates us from the rest, is that we have real deep conversations. We go anywhere. We touched on today, talking with Captain James and Tanner. They got into a heavy discussion, which is a big one. They addressed pedophilia today and talking about, the death sentence. And, that is everybody has an opinion on it, but because it's so prevalent today, especially in the church community, how we're going to combat that, what is the correct way to do it. So we touched on that today. And then Pastor Rios jumped in at that time and was able to help me because I forgot the scripture I was looking for. So that was wonderful to have him jump in like that. Thank you, Pastor Rios. But I think that these are the things that are so important. I say it like a discussion I have all the time because as a mom, we're around my kitchen table today. And these are discussions, high level discussions I have with other parents, like how to protect your children, how to be on guard, because we can't just look at institutional places as not having problems on the inside, so to speak. And we have to know how to protect our children. So I think just the way the world is, these are good discussions to have. And I really value each and every one of you today and everything that you share. Agree or disagree, this is how we find solutions, is not being afraid to address anything. And then we have Pastor Rios, his son, come in too. That's so cool. Like, I love the stories from father perspective, from the son perspective. And it really touched me deeply what Pastor Rios shared today. And I love that. Rios has never quit. Like, that is so cool. And then Captain James also said that a memory from his family, of his father, was steady, be steady. And I think it's just so simple, right? It's real. It's not this 10 pages of a eulogy, like Greg says, but it's like these simple staple things that in the hard moments, it's like that standard. It's what you grab onto. So very cool. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Honor to be here.
Greg, you're muted. Let me unmute
Yeah,
you.
thank
There
you,
you go.
thank you, everybody. It's got to be at least twice a show I do this, right, Val? It's pre-dementia. Anywho, Pastor Rios, the floor is yours. You take as long as you like.
No, thank you.
And, I thank you for being on. We'll be talking soon. Okay. God love you, sir.
Absolutely, and love to collaborate. Thank you. It's an honor to be. Thank you, Val, and just it was cool to collaborate with Tanner, and just it's always a blessing to be able to be in these spaces with you guys. So let's just pray together and just ask the good Lord to carry us through each of our journeys that we have. So Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you for. I want to say thank you for Val, and I want to say thank you for Greg and Tanner. God, I want to say thank you for just this opportunity, Lord, that you give us to have a conversation, and more importantly, I just say thank you for just the spiritual, divine awareness that is here. Like even just Greg being nudged to reach out to me, and how he reached out to me, and this pivotal point of my life, and just the unique things. God, thank you for people that are willing to have tough conversations. They're willing to sort the tough things, and address the issues that are facing our society, Lord. It's uncomfortable at times. It's challenging at times, but Lord, thank you that these people are willing to address these issues that impact the future, that impact our next generation, but more importantly, God, that address the sin issue that is at the heart of so many people that have not found you in their lives yet. God, I pray that you'd give us the wisdom, the understanding, give us the strength we need, the courage we need. Give us, Lord, just the resources that we need to go and to impact lives, and let us be aware that yes, we want to reach thousands, we want to reach millions, we want to reach the billions of people that make up this world, but the value that you have is placed even that if one person gives their life to you and finds repentance and salvation, that all of heaven rejoices. It impacts us to understand the value that even if we just have one conversation, impact one person. If there's one person that is impacted by today's conversation, there's one person that reaches out and finds forgiveness and salvation from maybe even one of these acts of of pain that have been inflicted into somebody else's life. Lord, I just pray that your grace and your mercy would operate in our lives. I pray that your grace and your mercy would move in our spirits. And I pray that, Lord, your grace and your mercy would overshadow us in everything we do. Give us courage. Give us many more years until you decide to crack that eastern sky. And Lord, we can do our best to make an impact in your kingdom. God, give us blessings, give us favor, and Lord, we won't fail to give you all the praise and the glory for what you have done and how you have divinely orchestrated our paths, and that you would lead us and guide us in all truth. And we will bless your holy name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Wow. You see, that's the real deal right there, ladies and gentlemen. Pastor, thank you. Pastor, thank you so much. Tanner, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will be seeing you soon, as they say in French, à la prochaine, which means until next time. Until next time. Val, sign them off. We'll be chatting this week, gentlemen. I just can't thank you enough for what came from this show. Because I'll tell you what came from this show. God came from this show. Okay, this was Tanner's day. This was Tanner's day. This was Pastor Rios's day. This is Captain McCormick's day. So thank you for bringing what you brung, and we will catch up soon. Val, you can do a final sign off.
Thank you. Go forth and do great things.
Amen.
Gee.
All right. That was wonderful. Secrets from the Inside, episode 001. Thanks everyone for joining, and we will have this for you on replay. I am going to close out, Greg, shortly. If you want to have some final thoughts or comments, I'm going to hand the mic to you.
Sure. Just a boy trying to come down from the clouds here. That was the most amazing. That was 3 hours, Val. That was 3 hours. I have no idea. I told you at the beginning we have no idea. With true long form live radio, it must be live. Because then you don't have to schedule it. What was scheduled for 50, I usually do 59 minutes, turned out to be we're literally over the 3 hour mark. I still can't believe it. But that's the way, honestly, that's the way live radio works. That's the way long form radio works. And that's the way God works. I had no idea what we're going to talk about. The funny thing about our shows, Val, funny thing about it is what's not talked about. Are you kidding? So I never promise anything in the future. I treat every day like it's my last on earth. But we really do need to do a really nice follow-up from stuff we were going to talk about today. There's so much stuff going on, and again, I'm not going to rush a sign off here. It's just been an amazing show, so I'm going to take a minute or two if I can.
Yes, I have lots of battery juice, so we're good to go. And I do have a lot of stuff in the queue. So
Oh
if you
no.
want to touch on that, I'll follow you. So back to you.
Oh my God. If anyone knew the Santa bag of stuff that Val Olson's got, yeah, the quiver that she's got going, the files that she's got going, the stories that she's got going, it's a crazy world out there. It's a crazy world. I'll take a minute quick just to kind of do my own debrief, if anything. And then I'll turn the mic back to you, Val. But I do, I just can't believe the 3 hours that was today. And from a down to earth standpoint, you can follow these gentlemen's work. Val, if you can do a wrap on that, Tanner and Cap McCormick, and on Pastor Rios. I'm not sure on that as far as his calls to action, but it's definitely Blue Thread Project. Fantastic organization. Featuring Chandler. I got to meet Chandler today. Gen Z, I'll bet you. Male entrepreneur. It's great. So you can find my work on either Facebook. My Facebook name's Gregory Meekin. I'm not accepting a lot of sadly Facebook friend requests these days. But the place to go is my website, which is gregmeekin.com, which is spelled GregMeakin.com. For the closed caption. If you're on radio right now, make sure you spell stuff, because closed captioning is the way to go. Everybody over 60 has a hearing problem. For young people who are in customer service and stuff, make sure you look an older person in the eye, seriously, and speak very clearly, because most of them are reading your lips. Seriously. So there's my old guy boomer lesson for Gen Zs who don't listen anyways. Anywho. So, and also, of course, my website, gregmeekin.com, and then my YouTube channel, which is at Greg Meekin. I'm so, as time goes on, so proud of that YouTube channel, because indeed it's approaching 1,700 videos, but just interesting stuff. There's no garbage. There's no, other than, by the way, the ads that are coming out on both Rumble and YouTube. I don't like those ads. My favorite button is skip ad. So, because we do our stuff commercial free, Val, that's the whole key to long form radio. Anyhow, so my website and my YouTube channel is the two key places. I am going to sign off. It's been incredible. I thank our guests. I thank Captain James McCormick. I thank my dear son, Tanner. And of course, Pastor Nathaniel Rios. He put a bookend on this show that I simply can't believe. I really thought he was going to pop in, and because these guys are so busy, Val. Yes. And here we go. I think it was I think it was a really special day for Pastor Rios. Because remember, once something's recorded and put online, it's there forever. And Pastor Rios, especially talking about his father. That was one in a million. If anything, that clip will be a gift for Pastor Rios. So As I say, I guess final thing of the day before I turn the mic back to you and I'll officially have you close it out, is remember, everybody, remember, wake up in kindergarten every day. There's so much to learn and so little time. Because before you know it, you're in first grade. I just arrived to first grade today, Val. Thank you very much. You finish up.
Me too. I feel like that. And I just want to thank our guests. So yes, we had Captain James. You can go to vva.org, and we must say a huge thank you to our Vietnam vets who just celebrated on March 29th. It is National Vietnam Veterans Day. So that was March 29th, and we can't say thank you enough. So that gets the highlight of the show, and they have a lot that they're working on for our next generation, because that's what they do. They're always 2 steps ahead. So I'm personally thankful beyond measure and words to be on this broadcast today, because they are right behind that. And Captain James had to take off for a meeting. He is doing big things in DC to clean up that swamp. And, just to have Tanner here and support what he's doing and come on side with us it's awesome. I could listen to him all day. And if you are not listening to him, you should be. He just, newly started a business where you can find his videos on YouTube, find him on Facebook. I like to watch him on Facebook Live, but Tanner Thorpe, look him up. And Pastor Nathaniel Rios to drop in today. Blue Threads is his company. And he also mentioned a new family business is coming out, Ladybird. So I'm already checking that out. So that was so cool just to have this show that was mobile today. He was on the road delivering suits. We were in DC and we're in sunshiny Arizona, which is where we like to do business, in the Wild West, right? And we're around my kitchen table, and you in your house with Gretzky not too far away, I see. So that was cool. And we also had greetings come in today from our favorite sheriff and his wife, the best team when it comes to law and order. And that's what it's all about in the Wild West, keeping law and order. So shout out to those that are defending the faith, defending freedom, but also keeping the line with law and order. I think that's important. I feel like I got to give a shout out to them always. Yeah. So that is episode 001, Secrets from the Inside. Go ahead, Greg. You get last word.
Last word. I love the last word. My twin boys, they always want the last word. Colton would say, fine then. You just say, fine then. He just had to have the last word. A quick final happy birthday wish to Val Olsen. Hot off the press. He could not make it in. He's always invited. His name's L. Gordon Kessler.
Oh, yes.
Gordy Kessler. Anyone who doesn't know who he is, just do your homework on that one. But Gordy wanted to be on today, as so many people do. Mark and Janelle were literally in the air during this show. Otherwise, they would have been on. So Gordy Kessler, look him up sometime, says a happy birthday to Val. You mean so much to him. He means so much to you. And the people in Alberta, which we have not even touched on today. You guys mean so much to us. You mean so much to us. And the regular people, the Brian Godleys, hello, the Terry and Red Deer. We could go on and on. The Roberts, the Paulettes. We could go on and on, which maybe we'll do that another show. No promises.
Can we give a quick shout out to Paulette too?
Oh, perfect sign off.
Yeah.
Perfect. My God, because I have a funny one. I can't, again, we're over 3 hours. Who cares? Because I have a Paulette story. And she would not mind at all me sharing it. I thought it might have been at the beginning of a show sometime. It's a little risque, though. I thought it might be at the end of the show sometime. But then here we go. You say, hey, can we have a shout out to Paulette? So here we're going to give her a shout out. Paulette McCullough, okay, is the #1 fan of Alberta 51 in Alberta and beyond. She drives around in her little motorhome. Class C, pretty good model there for an RV. Anywho, and drives around Alberta and beyond. in her motorhome, and it's all decked out. Alberta 51. She's on message. It's AB 51. Okay, everybody. It's like, don't complicate it. AB 51. She's been signing people up. She's been making hay out there. And so there's a big shout out to her. When I said Brian Godley earlier, and I said, the Terry Firsters of the world, and Robert Sowers of the world, and so many of you, okay? You're awesome, all right? But I'm going to finish with a story about Paulette. Are you ready? Almost parental guidance here, parental warning, almost, because it's just the funniest story I've ever heard. I mean, it's the funniest thing. Paulette, get to know her. It's great. She's the #1 fan of AB 51. But the first time I met her, I kind of knew her and she knew me because of the Facebook group. The first time I met her was in Alberta. The first time I ever traveled to Alberta. And we arrived, wonderful, wonderful tribal folks up there. But of course, Paulette was present because it was an AB 51 event. And this is she won't mind me sharing this, but anyhow. So Paulette strolls up to me. You were in the delegation. It was you and it was me. And she has this little motorhome that's just cute as a button, and she strolls straight up to me. And she's tiny like this, right? And I said, "Hey, how are you? You must be Paulette." Kid you not. She looks at me. "Hi, Greg Meekin. I've been wanting to meet you." And I said, "Cool. I'm wanting to meet you too. I'm glad we're part of the same cause." She says, "Sure. Do you have any time?" What is it? She said, "Are you single?" And I said, "No. Happily married and stuff." And she says, "Well, that's too bad." I said, and that's funny because I'd ask you out. And I'm saying, "Okay, fine. Okay, this is so funny." I said, "That is so sweet. No one's ever said anything like that to me before, but then here you go." And I said, "So anyhow, maybe another day, another place or whatever." She says, "No, I have my motorhome right here." Did you want to come?
The motorhome called Freedom. That's its name,
right.
Freedom.
Paulette is awesome. Signing off the show. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Val Olson. Go ahead and sign it off. Cheers to all you guys.
Thank you, everybody. And we will close out today. That is episode 001, Secrets from the
First,
Inside.
there was Dueling Citizens. Now, Secrets from the Inside. Author Greg Meekin nails it again. Introducing Secrets from the Inside radio show. Raw, unscripted, uncensored, uncanceled. Secrets from the Inside starts now.
You got me headed to the left, headed to the right, headed back and forth, but baby, it's